your evening well informed with primetime news.
Thanks for tuning in. You're watching SABC News Prime. The burning and land reform issue was also a point of discussion on the first day.
If you do not have a skills revolution, you will run into the kind of problems that we're having at the moment.
We have funded about 466,000 students, out of about 800,000 students that are in the university system.
South Africa says insufficient electricity and water remains one of the biggest barriers to development and prosperity on the continent.
The top four batsmen in the squad, Hashim Amla, Quinton de Kock, Faf du Plessis and AB de Villiers, are certainties in the starting lineup.
I really believe we cover all bases when it comes to spin bowling, seam bowling, proper pace bowling, and an amazing batting lineup.
Stay tuned every Monday to Sunday from 6 p.m.
The bright lights and the big city. A very good morning to you. We are live from Johannesburg, the city of gold. I'm with Kendall Mahamati. Kendall, cracking weekend ahead of us.
100%. We're looking forward to all three national teams on the go this weekend and lots to look forward to.
We'll get there shortly, but of course today, well, the focus is on Helen Zille and the Democratic Alliance. Of course, that long-awaited disciplinary hearing against the Western Cape Premier kicks off today.
Absolutely, and that's why on our question for the day, we're asking you, what are your expectations from the Helen Zille disciplinary hearing today?
Yeah, you guys are tweeting us already because it's something that's polarized South Africa in a big way. But then again, you said it. Everything polarizes South Africa.
Yes, now all opinionated to the hilt. Nazim Grootboom says, yes, they can suspend her, but she will fight back and we'll see who's the boss at the DA. That's
the question everybody wants to know. So, Unati, you're actually Nazim. It's nice to see that. Pule is here. He says, I fully support Helen that colonialism was bad, but let's look at its legacy. Colonialism had its benefit for us in terms of infrastructure. That's going to be Pule. That's going to be hard fought over within this disciplinary process, no doubt.
No doubt. Teddy M says, just like Jay-Z, Zille is digging her head in the sand whilst you can see she's not wanted.
Teddy Matera, if that is you, a very good morning to you, my friend. Good morning to you once again, also if you've just joined us now. Our theme, actually, our focus today is around bail and parole conditions here in South Africa. Given the spate of violent reoffenders we've seen, men, women out on bail, out on parole, committing heinous acts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why it is that we feel that it behooves us to ask you this question. Do we need stricter laws around bail and parole conditions?
Well, it's a landslide at the moment. 93% of 164 are saying yes.
We do.
And Onuke Christian tweets us, he says, it's not about laws, rather how strong is the enforcement. That's the key. Too many laws without enforcement is nonsense. Thank you, Onuke. That kind of tells us what we need to think about.
Absolutely. Katlego comes in with a slap on the wrist, a sweet warning, and welcome back and a hug.
Yeah, sarcasm, Kadlejo's the lowest form of wit, they say, but you are right, that's how people are feeling. South Africans feel, and when they communicate with us, they'll tell us, oh, criminals have more rights than us. Well, we all have the same rights. Nat says, it's so unnecessary to joke. Find real crimes and take real action, she says. Thank you, Nat. Thanks for that. Well, it's going to be a cracking sporting weekend. Keep tweeting us on these. These are the serious issues. We'll deal with it right up front here in the first hour. But all three our national teams are in action. Is it going to be a vintage weekend for us? What's your feeling?
My feeling is that it's going to be a mixed bag of results. I'll tell you what, Proteas up in action against India. We've got the Springboks playing France, and we've got Baxter and his cohorts out in Uyo, Nigeria, trying to beat Nigeria for the first time in Nigeria in a competitive match.
And it's a big competitive qualifying match, so there's going to be a lot happening with Bafana Bafana. Let's see what you guys are saying. Onuke says sports is all about contest. If they play well, they will win. Commitment and patriotism is the key to victory. Go for it.
Nice one, Onuke. Pule comes in with good luck to all of them, but Bafana tend to do well under a new coach, but fade in matches that follow.
Interesting, Pule. Interesting one there. Nkosi Thomas says to us, nothing good will come out from this. Guys, it's going to be a boring weekend when we come to the national teams. Trust me. Nkosi, you winner. Really? Hi, man.
Oh,
It's,
Chrissy.
it's a typical South African. We've learned to temper our expectations quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be the guy on Sunday night who'll celebrate the most when we win, if we win all 3 games. Kendall.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Let's hope he's wrong.
Yeah, let's hope he's wrong. Let's hope he's going to be celebrating. We've got a beautiful Monday. Good luck to Baxter, to Russell Domingo. Good luck as well to Alistair Coetzee, as well as the TZ League.
Anyhow, it's Friday morning. Let's get on with the news. Knysna has been declared a disaster zone following a meeting between Western Cape Premier Helen Zille and senior municipal officials. The DA's disciplinary hearing against Western Cape Premier Helen Zille kicks off today. And Britain is heading for a hung parliament with more than half the results now in from its snap general election yesterday. Those are the top stories. We'll give you more detail on them shortly, but let's go over to Kendall on the sports desk for the headlines on this Friday morning.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. As you've already touched on, it's massive. I can't wait to get to this weekend. Yes, I've got some family commitments, but I will be making sure I've got some time to catch up on all of this. Good morning. This is what we've got for you for today.
If you look at the first 15, all those players have really performed well in Super Rugby. They showed good form.
Springbok coach Alistair Coetzee finally goes with the Lions-dominated side to face off against the French at Loftus, with 7 of the 15 coming from the Gauteng Super Rugby franchise.
A real captain's knock. And that will do it. Famous win for Sri Lanka.
At the ICC Champions Trophy, Sri Lanka pulled off the unthinkable and beat the mighty India by 7 wickets with 8 balls to spare, throwing South Africa's Group B wide open.
That'll do it. So on her 20th birthday, Yelena Ostapenko gets an unbelievable birthday present.
Unseeded Yelena Ostapenko becomes the first Latvian to make it to a Grand Slam final, where she'll meet up with pre-tournament favourite Simona Halep. All this and more we've got for you later on the Sports Bulletin. For now, do stay with Eben because he's got the news.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kendall. Very good morning to you once again if you've just joined us. Our top story right now. Fires have been brought under control along the Garden route from Knysna eastwards towards the Nelson Mandela Bay. The fires did major damage at Knysna, causing it to be declared a disaster zone. There are reports that a firefighter has died in hospital, bringing the death toll from these fires to 5 now. Firefighters, assisted by 3 helicopters, worked overnight to damp down and monitor the hotspots.
3 Army helicopters arriving in Knysna at last light. Together with a helicopter from working on fire, they will target the hotspots. The aim is to put the fire out. It was still burning in pockets into the night.
It's very important with the aerial resources. We have our helicopter, but flying at a little bit higher altitudes is our spotter planes, and our spotter planes provide an essential guide to both our ground crews as well as our helicopters and water bombers in terms of where to do the water drops. So it's a coordinated effort.
The flames ravaged more than 50 houses in the Knysna region. The fire also spread to Plettenberg Bay, where at least 8 houses were razed. 5 people lost their lives.
There's no doubt that a disaster of this scale requires national government support. It has to be seen to be believed. It is a very serious matter. And of course, one of the things I'm most worried about is the people who lose their jobs through this kind of disaster.
The focus is also on providing humanitarian aid. Hundreds of people spent a second night in various halls. Hot food and shelter provided.
We thought we weren't going to make it. It was terrible. I have never experienced anything like it.
I was scared because my child has a chest problem and the smoke had entered our home. And it was not pleasant to experience it because we had to wake up at midnight to find shelter in a hall where others sought refuge.
Donations for the victims are also pouring in. Numerous donation campaigns are underway. Yuri Blichnout, SABC News, Knysna.
Well, it's a catastrophic fire and it devastated entire communities down in the Southern Cape. To talk to us about this and the fighting the fire effort, we are joined this morning by Trevor Abrahams. He's the Managing Director of Working on Fire. Trevor, very good morning to you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks very much for inviting us on.
I think us that are on the high veld and maybe elsewhere in the country, we don't quite realize the catastrophic nature of this event that took place there. Just paint us a picture of what it's really like on the ground there.
Yeah. What we had there, Eben, was multiple fires under very, very strong wind conditions which actually stopped us actually using our aerial resources. So the fire spread at a terrible rate, very, very fast. People weren't able to be warned adequately, and that's why you had the kind of devastation and people being trapped, and even, unfortunately, the fatalities that we had. And ultimately, we had to actually have the evacuation of the entire Knysna community.
Now, you talk about the slow start to the firefighting, the aerial effort. Just explain to us a little bit more detail. What made it so difficult and why did it start a little bit late?
Well, as you saw, the storm that came through the Southern Cape in Western Cape area was a major storm, the largest in 30 years. And the wind speeds there were of a nature that actually made flying impossible. So as much as we had resources on the ground right at George, we could not actually launch. In fact, right now, as we speak now, the wind has dropped, but we have smog conditions, so we're only able to attack certain of the areas.
Yeah.
And the wind will be picking up about 11 o'clock today, and then we have a new prefrontal storm coming in, where the danger is going to escalate again through this afternoon and into tomorrow.
Is this with high winds coming once again?
It will again be with winds, but the prefrontal conditions are known to be, endemic with spread of fire.
Now, Trevor, 20-something fires, we don't know the exact number. There are a lot of conspiracy around this, people saying this was not an act of God, this was, an act of man, and that they suspect that these fires were started.
Yeah. Look, all fires have to be investigated properly, but all indications are, with this prefrontal storm that we had last week, had a lot of lightning. So a lot of the sort of ignitions are thought to have started through lightning ignitions. But with the wind, the fire spreads very, very rapidly. You don't need any number of ignitions, but just one that can spread the fire. Right now, we have fires spreading from Sedgefield right through Knysna, through Plettenberg Bay to Witelsbos. So it's a whole line of fires. So counting them actually doesn't really help because they just simply spread.
Could these communities have been prepared better, or is it a fact that we were caught in a perfect storm?
I think it's an element of both. I think there's a bit of a perfect storm, 30 years since we last seen something like this. But there's also the kind of preventive measures that need to be taken, and also the alien invasives. These are plants which actually really exacerbate the spread of the fire. They are burning much hotter than our indigenous. So it's a combination of factors which contributed this kind of perfect storm.
Talk to us about the people that are there on the front line. We see pictures of working on fire people right there. We've seen calls for more firefighters to be made available and so forth. It's really tough conditions, this, isn't it?
Yes, right now we've got 398 of our firefighters online. I understand Kalula's also made an offer to fly some of our people in from Gauteng. So we're throwing everything that we have at it. We've got 3 of our choppers there standing by. Some of them are bombing as we speak. We've got one of our bombers which drop about 3 tons a time bombing at the moment. We have spotters which obviously do the command and control. Those kind of efforts are obviously limited by the weather. Also on the ground, of course, the danger factor goes up with the wind going up as there is. And unfortunately, we've had one fatality with someone from the Plettenberg Fire Service, which in fact has passed on.
Everyone in that sort of area is affected. Of course, we've been seen on social media. It's been racialized as we do everything. But I think the fact of these fires is that everyone's affected, from the richest of the rich to the poorest of the poor, and the relief efforts reflect that.
Yeah. Yes, it really cut across the entire swathe of the community in Knysna, from the more wealthier part on the Brenton-on-Sea, right through some of the townships to the north east of Knysna itself. In fact, right now, the concentrated effort on the ground is happening just short of a township to the northeast of Knysna.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the cloud and smoke cover is preventing the aerial resources getting in there. But if the wind picks up, hopefully we'll be able to attack that also with our aircraft.
Now you talk about this high risk scenario that's going to play out this afternoon. Just talk to us a little bit more about what we need to do in order to deal with this collectively.
Well, I think the command center that we have there is up and running. They've actually combined the command center for the entire string of fires from Sedgefield to Witelsbos at the moment. So we've got a coordinated response at the moment. I think we are much better prepared to call for evacuations if we see the situation deteriorating, because things happen very rapidly. At the start of this fire, it was very, very fast in development. I think we're much better prepared to try and get the action. And of course, we need to say thanks to the community. We're also pouring out with the kind of support they've given to our firefighters in terms of supplies and support to the people working on the fire line.
It's unprecedented almost to evacuate an entire town. And Knysna is not a small town, it's the biggest town. How did that sort of go? At some point we were told that there was no traffic allowed in and out of these towns. It was completely cut off.
Look, I think the first stages of the fire was chaotic because the spread was just unprecedented. With you dealing with 100 km/h winds and where embers are being blown and fires starting all over the show, it was chaotic. And eventually, you know, the command and control settled in. We had our buses being deployed to actually evacuate people from the town. And thankfully, I think the evacuation was relatively successful. Yes, we did have some fatalities, but if you take 8,000 in a situation where fire is spreading very rapidly all around the town, and the wind was changing directions. So, you know, I think I would compliment this emergency service in terms of what they pulled off in this evacuation.
Well, these pictures are of the aftermath. As you can imagine, entire communities devastated, countless cars and other vehicles burnt to cinders. You don't want to talk about the vegetation in that area. I think we'll only be counting the cost of these pictures in the weeks and months to come. Thank you very much to Trevor Abrahams, who's the Managing Director of Working on Fire. They've done an incredible job in mobilizing in the toughest of conditions to get this fire under control. And we are told that it's under control now. Is that right?
It's mostly under control. There are a number of hot spots, but I think, you know, with the anticipated wind coming in, I think you cannot actually say, you know, the matter's been put to rest.
There's too much ground to cover. It's as simple as that. Trevor, thank you once again for coming in. Trevor Abrahams is the Managing Director of Working on Fire, and they've been working through the last couple of nights to make sure that, well, this fire does not spread any further and cause more damage. You heard him say it's a catastrophe. Now, we move on. The Democratic Alliance's disciplinary hearing against the Western Cape Premier, Helen Zille, begins today with the party's legal commission ironing out procedural issues. The three-member panel, of course, is chaired by Hans Moelman. The DA charged Zille, its former leader, with bringing the party into disrepute following her controversial tweets about colonialism. It also suspended her this week from all party-related activities pending the outcome of this disciplinary hearing, though she remains the provincial premier. Now, Zille is expected to arrive at her disciplinary hearing accompanied by two lawyers today. The hearing is the culmination of an investigation into her controversial tweets about colonialism. DA MP Knysna and Plettenberg conducted the initial investigation and submitted her report to the party's Federal Executive Council, which took the decision to charge Zille. The FedEx also slapped Zille with suspension from party activities this week, pending the outcome of this DC. But according to the FedEx's chairperson, James Soff, today's meeting of the Legal Commission is expected to iron out some procedural issues before the hearing could get underway in earnest. The chairperson of the Democratic Alliance's federal executive, Mr. James Soff, has refuted allegations by Western Cape Premier Helen Zille that the parties treated her unfairly and had decided to suspend her even before she had a chance to give reasons as to why she should not be suspended. Zille, of course, is still the Western Cape Premier, and she was suspended earlier this week pending the outcome of her disciplinary hearing. Now, the matter relates to her controversial tweets on colonialism. The hearing gets underway today. Mr. Soff says the fact that Zille continues to try to justify her comment shows that the party's decision is justifiable. The DA has been calling on President Jacob Zuma to step down for years now, and the recent squabbles about Helen Zille has drawn attention to the party to see how it deals with its own leadership troubles. Mr. James Salfi joins us from Parliament this morning to discuss this and other matters concerning the party. A very good morning to you, Mr. Salfi. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Can I ask you to maybe give us an overview? How does the Democratic Alliance view this disciplinary process of Western Cape Premier Helen Zille that gets underway today?
Well, it's obviously less than ideal. It has the potential to damage the party, and it has the potential to confuse the public. But at issue here is a very, very important matter of principle and of identity. We, in the leadership of the DA, do not condone colonialism in any way. It left a very, very damaging legacy, and we cannot support it in any form whatsoever. And thus, when Premier Zille tweeted that and continued to justify it, we were forced to take action against her, and that action involved a disciplinary hearing and earlier this week, her suspension from party activities.
This action and the process that followed afterwards, would you say that it split the Democratic Alliance, as has been reported in some publications along racial lines? Some would go on further to even say that. Has it had that effect on the party?
No, I don't think so. And in fact, for the large part, the party understands what needs to be done. We've done a lot of communication work. As it happens later today, I shall be traveling up to Gauteng to address a number of meetings there, to contextualize the situation, to explain what has actually gone on and why it is necessary for us to take this particular action.
In your view, going forward, looking towards elections that are coming and so forth, what would be a good outcome for the Democratic Alliance?
Well, we would still like this matter to be settled in some satisfactory form. We do not want a protracted legal battle, because I don't think it's in anybody's interest. It's not in our interest, it's not in Helen Zille's interests, and it's certainly not in the interests of what we're trying to achieve. So we remain open to the idea of a settlement in some way or another, and even as late as last night, discussions were still continuing in an attempt to do so.
South Africa has been somewhat polarized by the colonialism tweets, as I'm sure you've made the experiences as well. Do you feel, as the Democratic Alliance, that there's extra pressure on the party to come out with a satisfactory outcome? Some even say to make sure that the calls for her to step down are heeded.
Well, I think that's putting the cart before the horse. I don't think anybody seriously wants her to step down. She runs the most successful government in South Africa. She has won a series of awards in terms of that government, not from us, but from institutions like the National Treasury. So it merely concerns being aligned to our project of what we are trying to achieve in South Africa. We want to look forward to a unified, democratic South Africa. We want to reignite the spirit of Mandela, to look back and to start a debate on colonialism, particularly when you do so by means of a tweet, is particularly unhelpful in achieving that political objective. And so it is necessary for us to settle that debate within our party before we can move on. But we intend to do so as rapidly as possible, because we've got a lot of work to do, and a lot of South Africans are looking to us to save this country.
Some political commentators are saying Helen Zille is being very stubborn and that these latest actions are hurting the Democratic Alliance. Your view?
Well, I think they do hurt the Democratic Alliance, and that is why, as I say, we would prefer a settlement of the matter. We have tried very hard to bring that about. We still remain open to that. But in the absence of that, we are going to have to go through our process. And if we have to go through our processes, we have very much confidence in those processes, and we will accept the outcome, whatever that outcome is.
You talk about the process, sir. Just tell us what happens to the office of the Premier in the case of an expulsion of Helen Zille in this case.
Well, again, I would emphasize that that's putting the cart before the horse, and this is speculative. But were it to be the case that a disciplinary hearing recommended that she lose her membership of the party, she would cease to be a member of the legislature and therefore cease to be the Premier. In that circumstance, another electoral college would be called in order to elect a new Premier for the province. But we really, really hope it won't come to that.
I want to move on a little bit because there are some of your partners in government in certain provinces like the EFF that have come out yesterday and spoke about the arrogance of the DA and the arrogance of this whole process, and that they want certain outcomes in order to continue working with the DA going forward. How do you view that kind of pressure from your political partners, if one can call it that?
Yes, well, I want a lot of things too. I want to pay less tax, but it's not going to happen. The fact of the matter is that we don't criticize the EFF's internal processes, and we would hope that they don't criticize ours. We have a constitution. It creates all sorts of checks and balances that are absent in the way that the EFF operates. So we can't just hire and fire people at will. That's the first point. The second point is that there was an implicit threat to withdraw the co-governance arrangements that we have in certain municipalities. I think that that would be a pity, because all it would do would be to put the ANC back in power and to continue the Gupta-led corruption of those governments. So we would hope that we were able to discuss this with the EFF in a balanced way and to explain to them what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it in the way that we're doing it.
Mr. Soft, just to wrap it up, the media has portrayed this latest event as a Mmusi Maimane versus Helen Zille, as the blacks against the whites within the DA. How do you view this kind of outlook?
Well, it's certainly not a racial issue. It's not blacks versus whites. But what it might be is an issue that Mmusi Maimane has laid out a particular path that he thinks this party should follow. That path is firmly based on the values of freedom, fairness, and opportunity. We want to give hope to South Africans. We know that the ANC can be defeated and will be defeated, and it is our job to build a new majority. And what this particular debate has done has forced us to take our eye off that ball and to take our attention away from this mission that we have to achieve. And that is a great pity because it's damaging not only to the party, but to South Africa as a whole.
Finally, sir, when do we expect, or do you expect, this matter to be finalized?
Well, a lot will depend on the evidence that people want to lead. It starts off today. I imagine that today's meeting is more of a procedural meeting, but depending on the timeline agreed today at the disciplinary committee, I would hope that this matter could be over very shortly, maybe in the space of a month or two.
Mr. Self, thank you very much for coming forward today and talking to us about a matter that I'm sure is a very difficult one to confront. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
That is, well, the chairperson of the DA's Federal Executive, Mr. James Self, talking to us, of course, about Western Cape Premier Helen Zille's disciplinary hearing that gets underway today. Yeah, it's been all over social media. It's probably the big story of the day, and we've been asking you the question, what are your expectations from the Helen Zille disciplinary hearing that starts today? Now, you heard there from James Self that it could be a process that takes up to a month before it is resolved. So during this time, it'll be very interesting to see what happens. Now, let's take a look at your tweets, because I saw some of the tweets were being put up there. Siafana says, I'm expecting this suspension only. Will she be kicked out of the DA? Judge Shawnee says she must do the right thing and she knows it, or else the DA is going to take a serious knock like my AN with the Zupta-ish, says Judge Shawnee. DK2 says it's obvious she'll get a fine like any other people that pushing racism, says DK. Kolani says, Newsroom, I'm expecting her to be found guilty as charged and her membership from the DA to be terminated. Yeah, there are lots of people who have these. Thanks, Kolani. Keep tweeting us. Interesting to hear your views on this story and, of course, others. Now, social trends. We'll start with the hashtag that's got everyone up. It's Knysna Fire, hashtag Knysna Fire, one of the biggest fires that we have ever seen. Well, these wildfires have devastated land, farms, homes, and left, well, 5 people dead. And now the death toll is still being verified and finalized as firefighters still work to relieve fires there as we speak. We'll give you a full update on this at 10 o'clock this morning. Then some shack dwellers are still suffering after the storm in Cape Town wreaked havoc, destroying houses and pulling down many trees. There are emergency services and aid organizations who are still working on assisting those affected by both the Cape storms and the Knysna fires. Now, in some good news, our junior box squad, well, they smashed Argentina by 72 points to 14 in the quarterfinals. Well, really literally a quarterfinal of the Under-20 World Cup, sending them through to the semi-finals now. The junior Boca are they're on course to lift another World Cup trophy. Then people are still talking about the well-known 50-50 TV presenter Johan Botha, who was killed in an armed robbery on Wednesday night. The hashtag there's Johan Botha. I have to add that I worked with this man when I started in the business more than 25 years ago. He's an absolute legend, and what a loss to the industry. Moving to the UK, Britain hosted a snap election. Many are wondering how the recent attacks in London and Manchester, as well as Brexit, will affect the results. And, well, the reporters were ruthless. Just look at them fighting behind the scenes, waiting for the best shots. Hashtag UK election. Of course, the British would create a cocktail competition in light of the elections. The Blue Ball pub in Westminster created the Theresa May cocktail, which won the taste buds of many. But will she win this election? Some say no. Take a look now at a picture of the day. This one comes from Lindo, and it says, I'm hashtag Johan Botha. Such sad news to hear. My condolences to his family and his loved ones. Our comment of the day now. This one comes from the junior Springboks, who say, congratulations to South Africa's junior Boks beating Argentina 72-14 to go into the final of the Under-20 Rugby World Cup. Now, let's move on and have a look at what's happening in the courts. The courts are busy. We'll start here in Johannesburg, the Magistrates Court, where a man accused of murdering Karabo Mokoena is set to resume his bail application. Her ex-boyfriend, Sandile Mantswe, was arrested after Mokwena's body was found burnt beyond recognition in a veld in Lyndhurst in Johannesburg in April. He's also accused of defeating the ends of justice. Karabo's family reported her missing on April 28. Her body was found the next day. Still here in Johannesburg, 6 suspects are expected to appear in the Magistrates Court in connection with the murder of a Northcliffe family after their burnt bodies were found in Centurion. Barely recognizable. The 6 face charges of murder, kidnapping, carrying an unlicensed firearm, house robbery and the possession of a stolen vehicle, as well as other possessions. So, one of the suspects believed to have been working for the family for several years. We move to the northwest, where a council employee at the Mamusa local municipality in northwest, who's been linked to the burning of council offices and a library, is expected to apply for bail. Workers at the municipality embarked on an illegal strike last week, demanding that vacant positions of senior managers be filled. This followed the dismissal of the acting municipal manager by the province's local government MEC. The suspect is facing a charge of arson as well as public violence. Now, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we'll be talking about bail and parole conditions and whether we allow criminals out of prison too easily after this break.
Today on Rights and Recourse, we will unpack the new traditional court bill.
The idea of the bill is not to overregulate, to basically set the principles.
The most important aspect of this bill is that it understands that customary law by its nature is consensual, that I have a right to affiliate, I have a right therefore to opt in, and I have a right to opt out.
The opt-out provision is basically one that you've got to respect the court in the sense of if you've been summoned, you've got to tell the clerk of the court at least that you're not willing to attend.
The challenge that I would like to throw to the Department of Justice, it has to come up with mechanisms of ensuring that people who exercise their right to opt out or to opt in are not in any way victimized.
Hashtag Rights with Dumila Mates on legal issues every Sunday at 2 o'clock Central African Time.
Welcome back, great to be with you. Now, government's review of criminal justice legislation is considering the inclusion of issues of state security and issues of national sovereignty in bail procedures. This emerged in a briefing by the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cluster in the Cabinet recently. The review follows a meeting of the ministers and President Jacob Zuma, who during his visits last month to Nyanga in the Cape Town, as well as Soshanguve outside of Pretoria, was told by police that the current laws were not working for them because the courts released on bail those the SAPS arrested for crimes. Now, 2 farm workers from Kilini in rural northwest accused of killing a teenager for picking a sunflower were granted bail of 5,000 rand each by the local magistrates court. This act sparked outrage from the local community, which led to the looting, as well as the burning of houses and businesses in the town. The community could not understand how the court came to the conclusion that these alleged murderers could be released back into the unsuspecting public after allegedly committing such a crime. There are many such examples whereby alleged perpetrators of crime, be it crimes like rape, murder or assault, are released on bail by the courts. Now, as these calls for stricter bail laws increase, organisations like the Wits Justice Project pride themselves with helping detainees get bail from prison. The Wits Justice Project investigates miscarriages of justice and raises awareness of issues within the criminal justice system with an aim to advocate for change, strengthen procedures and build on reform efforts. This is achieved through investigative journalism, advocacy, research and education. Ruth Hopkins is one of the investigative journalists there, and she joins us now in studio for more. Very good morning to you, Ruth. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. I just want to correct you. We don't help people get bail. We write about bail. We don't help people get bail.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. It's always like giving a presenter or an anchor a flat tire when you correct them. When you correct them right off the bat, you know.
I just want people to know what we do and have a
okay.
good impression.
Let's talk about bail. South Africans feel, generally, consensus on social media and elsewhere, that our criminals have an easy life here in South Africa. Are you feeling that headwind when you deal with the issues of getting bail?
It depends. I mean, I think it's very important to understand the purpose of bail. So I think I get the impression, at least, that in society there's this impression that bail is somehow a verdict on someone's guilt or innocence. But it's not. It's meant mainly to ensure that the suspect will appear in court. And so, yes, some people might be awarded bail in situations where it's not just. But on the other hand, what we know is also that people are awarded bail, but still end up in prison because they can't afford bail. About 8,000 people in South African prisons actually have the right to bail, but they can't afford the 500 or 1,000 or however much it is, the bail amount. So I think there's a lot of misunderstanding in the criminal justice system, in society, about what the purpose of bail is.
What do you make then of these calls that we see for stricter bail laws? Is it just a scenario of where we are in South Africa right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously like the crime rates are very high. I mean, this guy who was just murdered in the Zebra Inn,
Johan Berger.
Yeah, I mean that really impacts, you know, when it happens in your own town, and it makes people, you know, angry, and they fear that it might happen to them, or it has happened to them, and obviously they want, you know, a very kind of thorough approach to stopping crime.
It's very difficult to take that kind of emotion out of it, because I live in Northcliffe, and a family just a couple of roads away from me were kidnapped.
Yeah.
Those 6 gentlemen are in prison now. Should we advocate for them to get bail as well?
Well, I mean, they've committed a very, very serious crime. It's a Schedule 5 or 6 crime, which means that in the bail system, the onus is on them to convince the judge that they should be awarded bail, and the bail should then be in the interest of justice. And remember that people they're innocent until proven guilty. And it's up to the judge to decide if it's in the interest of justice to let someone out on bail.
The Wits Justice Project, how do you guys view parole? In South Africa, at times, it's 1/6 of your sentence. No matter what you've done, then you become eligible for parole. So if I kill you, or I kill your husband, I get 20 years, I have to do 3.5 years, and I become eligible for parole. How do you view that?
Well, I mean, as far as I know, you're eligible for parole after you've served half of your sentence. And
it's 1/6.
Okay, I was unaware of that. But I mean, the parole process, for someone to actually be awarded parole, they have to go through a whole process of, they have to like have a meeting with the victims of the crime, where they have to apologize, where they have to show remorse, they have to do anger management treatment, they have to see a psychologist, social workers. It's not that they've reached 1/6 of their sentence or half and then are let out on parole. They have to go through quite a stringent process.
How do you view vigilantism? We see the rise of vigilantism in South Africa because exactly that. People feel that the system does not protect them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very understandable reaction to an unresponsive government, to police who often don't investigate crimes very well, or let some criminals go, or arrest innocent people. I mean, that's another problem in the South African criminal justice system, is that a lot of people end up behind bars who shouldn't even be there.
How do we overcome this trust deficit that's seemingly developing between justice, the police, and the public?
Wow, that's a big question. I mean, I think it has all to do with a responsive government, and also with public pressure, and with a population that's well informed, that knows how the laws work, that know people who know how bail works, you know, and what the purpose is. They know what parole stands for. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about how it works. And it's up to the public to put pressure on the government to change the way that they deal with crime, to change the way they incarcerate people. Because, I mean, the prisons in South Africa, there's a lot of abuse, assault, torture. They're heavily overcrowded. And that's not going to lead to rehabilitation, because you want to stop that cycle of violence.
This is what I want to talk to you about, is rehabilitation. Because you should get parole if you're rehabilitated. But quite often, we don't see this kind of rehabilitation because we simply don't have the infrastructure to rehabilitate criminals. In South Africa, we have this idea that you go to prison, university, to become a better criminal.
Yeah, and your question is?
My question is, how do we overcome this? How do we overcome the fact that we cannot rehabilitate criminals in our prison system?
But I think we can. I mean, I think also you can, if you look outside South African borders, you know, if you look at other countries with low crime rates, with very few people in prison. For example, they use a lot of psychotherapy. They use a lot of job training, you know. And what's a big problem in South African prisons is that people are assaulted, electroshocked. I mean, I'm working on a story right now of a guy who was chained to a grille door in an isolation cell in a fetal position for 3 days straight. If you treat people like that, I mean, you don't have to do that. It's not like we can't do it. No, you can treat people humanely while they're in prison. There's no reason to assault them. There's no reason to torture them, because that, in the end, is going to come back and create bigger problems, because people will be released back into society angry, not rehabilitated.
Well, we don't rehabilitate our prisoners. Well, there's a lot more I want to ask you, but I'm just being told, time up, you have to stop now. Ruth, thank you for coming in. Ruth is an investigative journalist at the Wits Justice Project here in Johannesburg. And of course, we're talking about, well, bail conditions, bail laws, and a little bit about parole conditions. But she tells me she's not an expert. So we'll move on. And we ask you the question. We've been focusing on that, and this is the question on our poll. You guys have been voting since this morning. Do we need stricter laws around bail and parole conditions? Does the numbers surprise you? 185 votes in. An overwhelming 92%, Ruth, are saying, yes, we need stricter laws around bail and parole conditions.
Does that surprise me?
Yeah.
No, not at all. I mean, like I said, I think people are fed up. There's a lot of crime that's not being dealt with. Of course, people are going to want stricter laws.
Stricter everything. Anyhow, Alex tweeted us. Can we have a look at Alex's tweet there quickly? Alex, what did you say? There we go. He says, not everyone should get bail and parole. These perpetrators, they commit crimes hoping to get bail. The big M, Michael Sitoli, says, Newsroom, yes, we do, but that won't stop our ex-convicts from finishing off their unfinished business once out. Lechasa tweets us, yes, our justice system is a joke. Finished and klar. Tough today, Lechasa. Barry Martin says, yes, we need stricter laws on bail conditions, but no parole for murderers, rapists, and high-profile criminals. Interesting view, that one. Nazim says, yes, we do need stricter laws and tougher sentences, bail conditions, parole, talks about the justice system. Those are your tweets. Keep telling us what you think. We'll talk about this in the next hour as well. But right now, let's take a look at what is happening on some of the front pages elsewhere in the world. Of course, everyone's talking about the Times. Reports that a humiliated Theresa May called for a period of stability as she was urged to resign after her gamble on a snap election backfired. Across the pond in Florida, the Miami Herald says Florida Republican Senator Marco Rubio grilled former FBI Chief James Comey yesterday over what the senator saw as a failure to tell the American public that President Donald Trump was not a target in the investigation on Russian influence in the 2016 election. Then in Australia, the Daily Telegraph reports that household electricity prices are expected to fall by hundreds of dollars, not rise, under the chief scientist's plan to drive down the cost of gas by rewarding clean energy. Those are some of the headlines from around the world. Let's come back and have a look at local stories here in South Africa on our Facebook page. Yeah, that's where you get South Africa's news. The search for the remains of 3 Lily gold mine workers who were trapped underground in Barberton in Mpumalanga in February of last year, when a lamproom container they were working in fell into a sinkhole, would resume in September. The company said this yesterday. Judgment on a bail application by alleged rhino poachers expected in the Knysna Magistrates Court in the northwest province this morning. And finally, Prime Minister Theresa May faced calls to quit on Friday after election gamble to win a stronger mandate backfired, throwing British politics into turmoil and potentially delaying the start of Brexit negotiations. All of that and more on our Facebook page. Now, I've got Kendall Machamati here with us. Kendall Machamati is with us this morning to talk about what's going to be probably one of the big sporting weekends for South Africans of the year. The Boks are playing, Proteas are playing, Bafana Bafana are playing. Yep. And all kind of tough nuts for them to crack, isn't it?
All kind of tough nuts to crack. In fact, you know, leading into this, for some time now on the show, we have been speaking about the different teams, the different coaches. There's been a new guard that's come in the last 18 months, and this is a crunch weekend, both in the AFCON qualifier against Nigeria, as well as the Proteas trying to get into the semi-final, the ICC Champions Trophy, and Alistair Kutche getting a second bite of the cherry, really.
Before we get there, let's talk about Bafana Bafana first.
Yeah,
They're going to Nigeria. It's never been done by any Bafana coach. Stuart Baxter on sort of a honeymoon, in a honeymoon period still. Is there a feel-good factor around this team?
There's a feel-good factor. There's a lot of hope and optimism around this team. Stuart Baxter, it's his second time at the helm of Bafana Bafana. He's brought in all of the big guns from overseas, as well as those that have been performing in the local league. So everybody's looking forward to this. And, you know, one of the tweets that we got a little earlier about how there's always great performances about Bafana when they get a new coach. We're hoping that this is one of them.
Yeah, we certainly hope that they can pull off an upset in Nigeria. It's a long time since we've qualified for anything.
What I do find interesting is he's decided to retain Thabo Sinong and Mulufin Tseki, who are part of the former coach's staff. And I think he's looking to keep continuity going and be fair to everybody and be the level-minded coach that we always look for.
Yeah, he's always been a bridge builder. He's been a bridge builder. But let's move on to the Boks. A man who could be at the end of the bridge is Alistair Kutse. I've heard rumours they're saying that if he loses one test match, he's going to be fired.
Well, you know what, really, he should be. Considering that his excuses last time around were that he didn't have enough time to get his team together. He didn't choose his own management staff. You know, he was hobbled in that first season. He's had all the time he needs in the world. He's had several Indabas, Boss Berada that he's had with different people, different coaches. He's chosen some of his own favourite coaches, and he's also been allowed to pick overseas players. There's no reason why at home, playing against France, the Bokke should not win.
Then he picked this really inexperienced backline, 4 debutants, unheard of a little bit. If you're going to pick a team to play for your life, would that have been it?
I do think that he's always going to be under pressure. He's always hiding next to nothing. Regardless of what he does, he's always going to be criticised for it. Yes, there are lots of questions in terms of like some of the positional choices he's made, who the personnel he's chosen. But you know what? Let's see what happens. He's got one match to get it right, really.
What's your gut tell you?
My gut tells me that it's going to be closely fought, and I reckon it's going to be something like a 23-18 to the Springboks.
5 points to the Boks. My gut isn't feeling so good on this Friday, so I'm not going to pronounce on the Springboks at all. Let's talk about the Proteas. I think the Proteas are going to beat India on Sunday. I got a good feeling about that. I think they got the hiccup out of their system. But the questions remain until then.
You know what, I'd almost be inclined to disagree with you about how easy it's going to be that the Proteas come, because, you know, coming into the match yesterday that India lost against Sri Lanka, everybody expected India to wile up Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka batted out of their skins and got the 322 runs that they needed. With that said, India are now in trouble. Virat Kohli and his men feel that they need to do something. They were always going to do that against the Proteas, but I think they feel as much pressure as we do, because if they lose, they're out as well.
Yeah, I've heard a little story come out of the Indian camp about a standoff between coach Anil Kumble and Virat Kohli, and how they've been fighting, and how Virat Kohli's been fighting with senior members in the team like former captain MS Dhoni and even Yuvraj Singh. They're not happy with the way that he's managing the team. So India are not a camp that look very settled at the moment, and therein, I think, lies the opportunity for South Africa.
I would agree with you there, and at the same time, as we've spoken at length right here, the South African camp is not at its best either. But with that said, I do think, you know what, even it's neither here nor there. I think that India is going to be doing their best to make sure that they beat us, and so will the Proteas. And between the two teams who are both unhappy campers, should make for an absolute cracker of a final, really, this quarter-final, that's to get into the semi-final.
Yeah, if they want to win this Champions Trophy thing, they're going to have to win 3 finals in a row. It's now become a quarter-final, semi, and then the final, if we ever get there. But we've got to get past Sunday.
Yeah, we've got to get past Sunday.
Thank you very much. Kendo Mahamate says it's going to be a very good weekend for South African sports. I wish that he's right. I'll see you back again at 10.
Water-wise, water is an essential need. The scarcity of it could lead to loss of many lives, including livestock, plants, and much more. It requires us to use it sparingly and responsibly in times of need, failing which our taps and sanitation will not function. For more on water and weather issues, stay tuned to News Today, every Friday at 4:45 Central African Time. SABC News, making you water-wise.
I came there and then wanted to sing with them, and then they said, no, you are too young to sing with us. Then I got angry that day. That's when the Dr. Malinga was born. I don't want to say poor because of now we are not poor. That means God wanted to give us whatever He gave me today. Till I was featured by DJ Choice on the song called Casanova. Yay! Signed with Kalawa Jasmine via Orlando. Many songs. Then Dr. Malinga this, Dr. Malinga that. Then I was in.
For more inspiring stories, stay tuned to Bupilong every Friday.
This is Tanya Mukwamu, co-founder of a mobile application called MaxiCash. The app is aimed at helping African expatriates send money home.
When one thinks of sending money home, it could be peer-to-peer cash transfers, or it could be buying airtime or paying for school fees or hospital bills. So the list really expands. So it was just making that process a lot easier for African expats, bearing in mind that they have such high fees, going through your traditional agencies and so forth. So we just thought that, that money could be routed to better use.
Being an expat from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Tanya found it rather challenging to send money from South Africa to her home country. This is when the MaxiCash app was born.
It was really personal frustration to begin with, like I think a lot of solutions. I'm an expat myself. I'm originally from the DRC, so I've had that experience of sending money to my parents or anyone I support back home, and having to leave work and take time off, and there's so much paperwork, and often you don't have the right papers. I've been robbed, believe it or not, with all the with cash on me. So it was really just my own experience, and through studies, obviously, I noticed that a lot of African experts and others experience the same issues. So it took the time to study and have the proper technology and make sure the market was ready for our solution.
Because of South Africa's functional banking infrastructure, mobile money services such as Kenya's M-Pesa rarely survive. What makes MaxiCash different from these?
The app is available for download on Google Play and your Apple Store. And one downloads it from anywhere. And we do have some selective markets where you can cash out your funds. So right now, from a cash out point of view, you can cash out in South Africa, as well as the DRC, and soon entering into like the Eastern African market. We integrate with the FNB e-wallet, so the recipient will receive the money like they would, you receive your SMS, your e-wallet payment is there, and you go to any FNB ATM and cash it out.
Tanya comes from a logistics and transportation industry and fell into the tech world, where she learnt a lot, and with the help of other techies, she eventually built an app that will make life easier for others.
Welcome back. Very good morning. 10 o'clock Central African time. Beautiful. Cold day in Johannesburg, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a beautiful winter. It's very mild, actually.
Yeah, it was 1 degree this morning. That was a little bit unnerving, but it's warming up. And of course, the sun always shines here on the Highveld. We love that. For Helen Zille, the sun might be going down today.
It might well be. She's digging her heels in hard, but it might well be. We're trying to find out from you. Our focus has really been on the Democratic Alliance disciplinary hearing against Helen Zille, the Western Cape Premier. Now, we're asking you this question.
Yeah, what's your expectations? You guys have pronounced a lot on the show over the last week or so with regards to this. What are you guys saying today? It's been a polarizing kind of event, hasn't it?
Absolutely. And now look at this. I mean, Duma Sandile for a fact says, strange fact, DA says Zille was opening a debate on colonialism. Let's all then say that what we feel about colonialism and apartheid.
There you go, Duma, straight to the point. Pula comes, he says, I fully support Helen that colonialism was bad, but let's look at its legacy. Colonialism had its benefits for us in terms of infrastructure. Pula, I'm not going to say anything on that.
Mina, Kolani says, I'm expecting her to be defiant, arrogant, and still defend her tweets about colonialism. I'm also expecting her membership to be terminated.
Yep, those are what you... Let's keep tweeting us, guys. This is the story of the day. Helen Zille, well, it starts. We're a procedural start today. We were told by James Soft that it would probably last about a month before all things are considered. We also, of course, focusing on parole, bail, and parole conditions in South Africa. We've seen that, parolees often go out and commit the most heinous acts straight after coming out of prison. And bail, and people out on bail, they go and they threaten witnesses, threaten families, all that kind of stuff.
Get retribution as well. And that's why we're asking you, do we need stricter laws around bail and parole conditions?
I'm a little bit I'm not surprised by the numbers, because I think people are sick of crime. People are even calling for the death penalty to come back. Yes. It just shows you people are desperate in a way for this crime problem to be solved. Kalejo says, I'm satisfied with parole because everyone differs. It is if they deserves. Oh, it deserves it if they regretfully change and behave satisfactorily, but the law used for one about to grant should be stricter. Kadlejo, I've seen you write properly in the past. Please, my friend, help us help you, man.
Peter Muffuke says, we do need stricter laws. This will bring back more confidence to our justice system.
And Evelyn says, we do need strict rules for bail, as people think that they can get away with hurting innocent people. Thank you, Evelyn. Lejote tweeting us there. Yes, this weekend is a cracking sporting weekend. All three of our national teams will be in action. What are your expectations? That's a question that Kendall's been putting forward to all of you guys. We're a little bit nervous, I think, a little bit nervous ahead of it, so we're not making big pronouncements.
Look, I did make a big one there with Springbok. I've been thinking about it. I should have pulled it back, I think. I'll wait for Monday.
Yeah, we'll see on Monday. Peter Mofokeng says, I'm hoping that they will bring a smile back and make us proud. Thank you, Peter. It's been a tough week. We've seen storms, fires, tragedy and the like.
Yes, and Kobisa says Box will win, Bafana will draw, and Proteas will choke as they did against Pakistan.
Kobisa, hey, you are a tough crowd. Now, Vuyo comes in and says, win plus win, then Bafana lost to Nigeria.
Ish.
Hey.
Tough being a South African sports fan.
I know, hey, there's no middle ground. Hey, the choke word has come out, and of course the loss to Nigeria has come out already. So let's hope that we come on Monday and we have a good big smile on our faces.
Yes, and I'll be looking forward to giving the headlines on that. They want to take about all three have won, get a hat-trick of wins from South African national teams.
Here are your top stories on this Friday. Knysna has now been declared a disaster zone following a meeting between Western Cape Premier Helen Zille and senior municipal officials. The DA's disciplinary hearing against Western Cape Premier Helen Zille kicks off today. And Britain is heading for a hung parliament with more than half the results now in from its snap general election yesterday. Those are the top stories at 10. Let's go over to Kendall for the sports headlines.
Yevon, thank you very much. Looking forward to a massive weekend. And let me just bring all our viewers in and let you know exactly what it is we've got for you in this bulletin today.
If you look at the first 15, all those players have really performed well in Super Rugby. They showed good form.
Premier coach Alistair Coetzee finally goes with the Lions-dominated side to face off against the French at Loftus with 7 of the 15 from the Gauteng Super Rugby franchise.
A real captain's knock. And that will do it. A famous win for Sri Lanka.
At the ICC Champions Trophy, Sri Lanka pull off the unthinkable and beat the mighty India by 7 wickets with 8 balls to spare, throwing South Africa's Group B wide open.
Huge smile.
That'll do it. So on her 20th birthday, Yelena Ostapenko gets an unbelievable birthday present.
Unseeded Yelena Ostapenko becomes the first Latvian to make it to a Grand Slam final, where she'll meet up with pre-tournament favourite Simona Halep. All this and more we've got for you later on. I'll also be chatting to Cass Naidu about the ICC Champions Trophy, a quick overview before the weekend. For now, it's back to Eben, who's got the news.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kendall. Good morning to you. Fires have been brought under control along the garden route from Knysna eastwards towards the Nelson Mandela Bay. These fires did major damage at Knysna, causing it to be declared as a disaster zone today. There are reports that a firefighter has died in hospital, bringing the death toll from these fires now to 5. Firefighters, assisted by 3 helicopters, worked through the night to damp down and monitor hotspots.
3 army helicopters arriving in Knysna at last light. Together with a helicopter from working on fire, they will target the hotspots. The aim is to put the fire out. It was still burning in pockets into the night.
It's very important with the aerial resources. We have our helicopter, but flying at a little bit higher altitudes is our spotter planes. And our spotter planes provide an essential guide to both our ground crews as well as our helicopters and water bombers in terms of where to do the water drops. So it's a coordinated effort.
The flames ravaged more than 50 houses in the Knysna region. The fire also spread to Plettenberg Bay, where at least 8 houses were razed. 5 people lost their lives.
There's no doubt that a disaster of this scale requires national government support. It has to be seen to be believed. It is a very serious matter. And of course, one of the things I'm most worried about is the people who lose their jobs through this kind of disaster.
The focus is also on providing humanitarian aid. Hundreds of people spent a second night in various halls. Hot food and shelter provided.
We thought we weren't going to make it. It was terrible. I have never experienced anything like it.
I was scared because my child has a chest problem and the smoke had entered our home. And it was not pleasant to experience it because we had to wake up at midnight to find shelter in a hall where others sought refuge.
Donations for the victims are also pouring in. Numerous donation campaigns are underway. Yuri Blichnout, SABC News, Knysna.
Now, much of the focus of the Garden Route wildfires has been on the town of Knysna, which was hardest hit, but the fire also spread quickly to neighbouring Plettenberg Bay, where over 1,000 people were evacuated. A number of homes were also destroyed in this area. The damage could have been much worse had light rain not started falling, which brought quite a bit of relief. However, this has been one of the worst disasters ever experienced in the history of this province and, I'd say, the nation. Let's cross to our reporter, Yuri Blichnout. He's in Plettenberg Bay to give us an update. Yuri, I know you're speaking to some evacuees, but just give us a quick overview about the mood in the area there.
Hi, good morning, Evan. Morning to the viewers. Yes, welcome to Plettenberg Bay. Weather-wise, it's a good day. Low wind, but there's no rain in the forecast. But Plettenberg Bay woke up quite somber this morning as they have lost one of their own in the fires. Fireman Bradley Richards sadly lost his life after he was badly injured in the fire while fighting the fire in the Hawkerville area. His colleague Ian Barnard is still in hospital in George, recovering. He was also quite badly injured in that same incident, and people here have expressed their condolences with regards to this, and it is quite sad for the guys here. Looking at Plettenberg Bay specifically, two main areas were hit here, the Kranshoek area and then also the Robberg area, where a number of houses were lost. People were then, as you noted, evacuated. Many of them spent the last 2 nights in halls across the town in Plettenberg Bay, but since yesterday people have been returning to the areas after these have been declared safe. Today the last people of Kranshoek will return to their area after they were hit by the firestorm. And with me here I have Nolene van Wyk. She was one of the people from Kranshoek who had to literally run for their lives. And I'm going to speak to her now and see how they feel about going back. Nolene, first of all, tell us, when the fire came, I mean, what did you guys experience?
That was probably the most scariest night of my whole life. The fires were all around us. The smoke was so heavy. But luckily the people of Bito, they have the most great heart. All jump in and everybody evacuate everyone's houses, and we were taking to this place in Gekerk in town, and we stayed 2 nights here. We're returning home now to see what happened at our homes. Thank you, Pito. Thank you for the municipality.
With you guys returning home now, I mean, where does the process now start to sort of rebuild your lives and assist those who've lost everything?
Yes, that is what's going to happen now. We're going to find out now whose houses were lost in the fire and what else happened, because we don't know where our furniture is now. We have to go look for it now. But thank you, Lord, we're all alive. And we feel so sorry for Brett, the fireman who lost his life, and also Ian, who's in hospital. God be with him. We're praying for you.
Thank you. And as she mentions now, as people will return to their abodes today, a lot of focus now moves to damping down, dealing with the hotspots, and then finally putting the fire out completely. As people also will return, officials will move around from place to place, seeing what people still need. We've seen donations flood in for the victims of the Knysna and Plet fires, and obviously a lot of these donations will then be handed out to people and trying to deal with people in need. I've just come from the Joint Operations Centre meeting, which they've had in Plet this morning, where they will now deal with these mop-up operations. A lot of this include to assist farmers in the area who've lost grazing and who need grazing land for their cattle. Offers have already been made where people have opened their lands for other people to bring their cattle through. Also animals that have perished in the fires, plans are being made to dispose of these poor animals, making sure that health and safety issues are adhered to and you don't have subsequent problems. And then also people have opened their homes to those who are in need of a roof over their head. Apart from the halls and so forth, a lot of people have managed to find places to stay in other people's homes, guest houses, these places. Backpackers have also come on board. So everyone has a place to stay currently, and now the town is starting to pull together and stand up from the ashes, so to speak.
Yuri, thank you very much for that update. Certainly looks as if it's a community in shock. That's Yuri Blichnout. Yuri is down in Plettenberg Bay, which of course is just right next to the epicenter of where the worst fires occurred in the last couple of days. Now, the outlook for this afternoon is not good. It looks as if the winds will be picking up again. And when the winds pick up, it means that those little embers that are still burning there could blow into big fires once again. So let's hope that they get on top of it a little bit earlier. I spoke to Trevor Abrahams about this. He's the managing director of Working on Fire.
There have been multiple fires under very strong wind conditions which actually stopped us actually using our aerial resources. So the fire spread at a terrible rate, very fast, where people weren't able to be warned adequately, and that's why you had the kind of devastation and people being trapped, and even unfortunately the fatalities that we had. And ultimately we had to actually have the evacuation of the entire Knysna community.
Now you talk about the slow start to the firefighting, the aerial effort. Just explain to us a little bit more detail what made it so difficult and why did it start a little bit late?
Well, as you saw, you know, the storm that came through the Southern Cape in Western Cape area was a major storm, the largest in 30 years. And the wind speeds there were of a nature that actually made flying impossible. So as much as we had resources on the ground right at George, we could not actually launch. In fact, right now, as we speak now, the wind has dropped, but we have smog conditions, so we're only able to attack certain of the areas.
Yeah.
And the wind will be picking up about 11 o'clock today, and then we have a new prefrontal storm coming in, where the danger is going to escalate again through this afternoon and into tomorrow.
Is this with high winds coming once again?
It will again be with winds, but the prefrontal conditions are known to be, you know, endemic with spread of fire. Now,
Trevor, 20-something fires, we don't know the exact number. There are a lot of conspiracy around this, people saying this was not an act of God, this was, well, an act of man, and that they suspect that these fires were started.
Yeah. Look, you know, all fires have to be investigated properly, but all indications are, with this prefrontal storm that we had last week, had a lot of lightning. So a lot of it, the sort of ignitions are thought to have started through lightning ignitions. But with the wind, the fire spreads very rapidly. You don't need any number of ignitions, but just one that can spread the fire.
That's how it's been described by those who are working on the fire. But we move on. A lecturer at the Denver Community Learning Center in Johannesburg has been withdrawn from invigilating current examinations following allegations of bribery and sexual harassment. He's accused of promising a student a pass in return for sexual favors or 10,000 rand. The Department of Higher Education and Training is investigating this matter.
The Denver Community Learning Center appears to be embroiled in a scandal. The lecturer is not invigilating any of the exams currently underway. It's alleged that on a number of occasions, he lured the pupil to the staff room under the pretense that he would give her papers from previous examinations.
In a number of instances, the lecturer then locked the students inside the staff room and began to fondle her and saying, I can make you to pass. And he went on to even say to the learner, you can even give me 10,000 rands. I would help you to pass the examination.
Will you also be widening the scope of your investigation? We understand that the lecturer has been in your employ since 2012, and there's no indication at this stage as to whether these incidents have happened before.
We cannot limit our investigation. We definitely have to go back and check what has happened in the previous examinations, follow up with some of the previous learners, more especially ladies who studied here and all that, and see if such a behavior existed, not only through this particular lecturer, but existed amongst other members of the staff.
While other students have responded with shock to the alleged incident.
I think it's disgusting. It's also terrible.
The lecturer is likely to be suspended pending a probe by Higher Education and Training. Griselda Lewis, SABC News in Jeppestown.
The DA's disciplinary hearing against Western Cape Premier Helen Zille begins today, with the party's legal commission ironing out procedural issues. The three-member panel is chaired by Hans Moorman. The DA charged Zille, its former leader, with bringing the party into disrepute following her controversial tweets about colonialism. It's also suspended her this week from all party-related activities pending the outcome of this disciplinary hearing, though she remains the provincial premier. DA MP Knysna and Plettenberg conducted the initial investigation and submitted her report to the party's Federal Executive Council, which took the decision to then charge Zille. The FedEx also slapped Zille with suspension from party activities this week pending the outcome of the DC. But according to the FedEx chairperson, James Zille, today's meeting of the Legal Commission is expected to iron out some procedural issues before the hearing could get underway in earnest. The chairperson of the Democratic Alliance's federal executive, Mr. James Zille, has refuted allegations by Western Cape Premier Helen Zille that the parties treated her unfairly and had decided to suspend her even before she had a chance to give reasons as to why she should not be suspended. Zille, of course, is still the Western Cape Premier, and she was suspended earlier this week pending the outcome of her disciplinary hearing. Now, the matter relates to her controversial tweets on colonialism. The hearing gets underway today. Mr. Zille says the fact that Zille continues to try to justify her comment shows that the party's decision is justifiable. The DA has been calling on President Jacob Zuma to step down for years now, and the recent squabbles about Helen Zille has drawn attention to the party to see how it deals with its own leadership troubles. Mr. James Zille joins us from Parliament this morning to discuss this and other matters concerning the party. A very good morning to you, Mr. Zille. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Can I ask you to maybe give us an overview? How does the Democratic Alliance view this disciplinary process of Western Cape Premier Helen Zille that gets underway today?
Well, it's obviously less than ideal. It has the potential to damage the party, and it has the potential to confuse the public. But at issue here is a very, very important matter of principle and of identity. We, in the leadership of the DA, do not condone colonialism in any way. It left a very, very damaging legacy, and we cannot support it in any form whatsoever. And thus, when Premier Zille tweeted that and continued to justify it, we were forced to take action against her, and that action involved a disciplinary hearing and earlier this week, her suspension from party activities.
This action and the process that followed afterwards, would you say that it split the Democratic Alliance, as has been reported in some publications along racial lines? Some would go on further to even say that. Has it had that effect on the party?
No, I don't think so. And in fact, for the large part, the party understands what needs to be done. We've done a lot of communication work. As it happens, later today, I shall be traveling up to Gauteng to address a number of meetings there, to contextualize the situation, to explain what has actually gone on and why it is necessary for us to take this particular action.
In your view, going forward, looking towards elections that are coming and so forth, what would be a good outcome for the Democratic Alliance?
Well, we would still like this matter to be settled in some satisfactory form. We do not want a protracted legal battle, because I don't think it's in anybody's interest. It's not in our interests, it's not in Helen Zille's interests, and it's certainly not in the interests of what we're trying to achieve. So we remain open to the idea of a settlement in some way or another. And even as late as last night, discussions were still continuing in an attempt to do so.
South Africa has been somewhat polarized by the colonialism tweets, as I'm sure you've made the experiences as well. Do you feel, as the Democratic Alliance, that there's extra pressure on the party to come out with a satisfactory outcome. Some even say to make sure that the calls for her to step down are heeded?
Well, I think that's putting the cart before the horse. I don't think anybody seriously wants her to step down. She runs the most successful government in South Africa. She has won a series of awards in terms of that government, not from us, but from institutions like the National Treasury. So it merely concerns being aligned to our project of what we are trying to achieve in South Africa. We want to look forward to a unified, democratic South Africa. We want to reignite the spirit of Mandela, to look back and to start a debate on colonialism, particularly when you do so by means of a tweet, is particularly unhelpful in achieving that political objective. And so it is necessary for us to settle that debate within our party before we can move on. But we intend to do so as rapidly as possible because we've got a lot of work to do and a lot of South Africans are looking to us to save this country.
Some political commentators are saying Helen Zille is being very stubborn and that these latest actions are hurting the Democratic Alliance. Your view?
Well, I think they do hurt the Democratic Alliance. And that is why, as I say, we would prefer a settlement of the matter. We have tried very hard to bring that about. We still remain open to that. But in the absence of that, we are going to have to go through our process. And if we have to go through our processes, we have very much confidence in those processes, and we will accept the outcome, whatever that outcome is.
You talk about the process, sir. Just tell us what happens to the office of the Premier in the case of an expulsion of Helen Zille in this case.
Well, again, I would emphasize that that's putting the cart before the horse, and this is speculative. But were it to be the case that a disciplinary hearing recommended that she lose her membership of the party, she would cease to be a member of the legislature and therefore cease to be the Premier. In that circumstance, another electoral college would be called in order to elect a new Premier for the province. But we really, really hope it won't come to that.
I want to move on a little bit because there are some of your partners in government in certain provinces like the EFF that have come out yesterday and spoke about the arrogance of the DA and the arrogance of this whole process, and that they want certain outcomes in order to continue working with the DA going forward. How do you view that kind of pressure from your political partners, if one can call it that?
Yes, well, I want a lot of things too. I want to pay less tax, but it's not going to happen. The fact of the matter is that we don't criticize the EFF's internal processes, and we would hope that they don't criticize ours. We have a constitution. It creates all sorts of checks and balances that are absent in the way that the EFF operates. So we can't just hire and fire people at will. That's the first point. The second point is that there was an implicit threat to withdraw the co-governance arrangements that we have in certain municipalities. I think that that would be a pity, because all it would do would be to put the ANC back in power and to continue the Gupta-led corruption of those governments. So we would hope that we were able to discuss this with the EFF in a balanced way and to explain to them what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it in the way that we're doing it.
Mr. Soft, just to wrap it up, the media has portrayed this latest event as a Musi Maimane versus Helen Zille, as the blacks against the whites within the DA. How do you view this kind of outlook?
Well, it's certainly not a racial issue. It's not blacks versus whites. but what it might be is an issue that Mmusi Maimane has laid out a particular path that he thinks this party should follow. That path is firmly based on the values of freedom, fairness, and opportunity. We want to give hope to South Africans. We know that the ANC can be defeated and will be defeated, and it is our job to build a new majority. And what this particular debate has done has forced us to take our eye off that ball and to take our attention away from this mission that we have to achieve. And that is a great pity because it's damaging not only to the party, but to South Africa as a whole.
Finally, sir, when do we expect, or do you expect, this matter to be finalized?
Well, a lot will depend on the evidence that people want to lead. It starts off today. I imagine that today's meeting is more of a procedural meeting, but depending on the timeline agreed today at the disciplinary committee, I would hope that this matter could be over very shortly, maybe in the space of a month or two.
Mr. Self, thank you very much for coming forward today and talking to us about a matter that I'm sure is a very difficult one to confront. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
That is, well, the chairperson of the DA's Federal Executive, Mr. James Self, talking to us, of course, about Western Cape Premier Helen Zille's disciplinary hearing that gets underway today. Yeah, we've been asking you guys, what are your views with regards to the disciplinary? Of course, the suspension, resuspension, unsuspension, all of the kind of soap opera that went with it. What are your views and what's your expectation from Helen Zille's DC today? This one from Cyril Chilowa. He says, Newsroom, I don't see anything wrong regarding the Helen Zille saga. SG says, Newsroom, if the DA want the black vote, they must fire her now. Nkosi Thomas says, that is if they want to win in 2019, they will do the right thing for the party. Those are some of your new tweets that are coming in as we're doing this show. Yes, this standoff, as it's been made out between Helen Zille and DA leader Mmusi Maimane, has raised a lot of questions within the Democratic Alliance. The party seems to be well divided by this. Some say this battle will show who truly leads the Democratic Alliance. Well, we are now joined live from a Polokwane studio by political analyst Elvis Masocha. Very good morning to Elvis. Nice to be talking to you today.
Good morning to you, Iben, and all the viewers of SABC News.
Elvis, why don't you answer us the question? Who's in charge of the Democratic Alliance?
You know, literally speaking, I will say, Mmusi Maimane as the national leader is in charge of the Democratic Alliance. But at the same time, Iben, allow me to salute, the strategic resilience and bravery of Mmusi Maimane, because he has decided to say he's not going to be imprisoned by personal loyalty to Helen Zille, but he will be guided by what is in the best interest of the Democratic Alliance. And I think that's where some leaders happen to make a mistake when they are found in that kind of a situation. Everybody knows that Helen Zille contributed immensely to the rise of Mmusi Maimane as a leader. But that in itself, it should not turn Mmusi Maimane as a prisoner to Helen Zille's mistakes. I think it was correct for the DA to take a decision to suspend her from the membership of the DA because the DA has got a long-term political ambition to govern South Africa soon or one day. And there have been allegations that DA is a lily-white organization, is a colonialism worshipping organization. So this kind of tweets from the former leader of DA, Helen Zille, are compromising and damaging the prospects of the Democratic Alliance in terms of winning general elections. So I salute Mmusi Maimane and other members of the Federal Executive Committee of DA to take such a necessary, although painful, decision.
Has this split the DA, and is this damage almost irreparable?
You know, you remember quite well, Iben, that, you know, Nelson Mandela in his, you know, autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, has taught us as the nation that throughout the course of any revolution, decisions are not taken out of pride or embarrassment, but out of necessity. And I think that's exactly what guides Mmusi Maimane at this point in time. He's not considering pride or embarrassment, but he's considering what is necessary. And I agree with Maimane that the most necessary path for the DA to take right now is to take decisions that communicate the message to the nation that indeed this is a new democratic alliance that is open to all South Africans, that doesn't worship apartheid, DA that doesn't worship colonialism, but the DA that is committed to accommodate all South Africans. And if you happen to find yourself as a DA leader facing a former leader who praises colonialism, definitely you must protect your organization. And I think people are making a mistake. They are blaming Maimane necessarily because he has been politically groomed by Helen Zille. That is immaterial. As a leader, you must defend your organization before you can defend an individual.
Talk to me quickly about black voters in South Africa and how they are thinking about Helen Zille. Do they see her as anti-black? Because this is not the first borderline pronouncement that she's made.
You know, Iben, it's not necessarily a case of satisfying or dissatisfying black voters here. Remember, I believe there might be many white, Indian or colored members of the DA who strongly believe that Zille's comments were really colonial and partially racist. So it's not a black issue or a white issue. It's a matter of what does the DA stands for, especially the new DA under Mmusi Maimane, because Mmusi Maimane want to create a new DA that is going to be seen as a political home for all South Africans. But on the other side, you have got a former leader who want to take the DA back into the dungeons of the west part of history. And I think that's what Mmusi Maimane is trying to avoid. I believe Maimane's decision is not only supported by black members of the DA. I believe other Indian, colored, and white members of the DA perfectly believe that Maimane took a correct decision, because here they have to choose between Helen Zille and the DA. And as a political person, you can't choose an individual over an organization. And another thing, Eben, that complicates matters is that Helen Zille appears to be unrepentant and defiant to the core. She doesn't see the gravity of the mistake that she made. Maimane repeatedly said he requested Zille to apologize publicly and unreservedly for those tweets. But it appears that Zille refused to do that. So my fear is that Helen Zille does not appreciate the gravity of the mistake that she made pertaining to those tweets.
There's a storyline that says Helen Zille should be stepping down for the good of the party to secure their chances for 2019. What do you say?
You know, there was an opportunity for Helen Zille to swallow her pride, adopt human morals, and apologize unconditionally and unreservedly to the Democratic Alliance and the nation at large. She had that opportunity, but you saw what happened. After that, she wrote articles trying to justify those comments, appearing on different radio stations and television channels, trying to justify her comments. That aggravated the whole Zille situation. Because right now, I think the DA has arrived at the do-or-die moment to take an extremely decisive action against the defiant Helen Zille. Listen to her right now. She's even threatening the legitimacy of the DA to charge her. She appeared to be a very defiant person who is prepared to fight to the bitter end. And that, I believe, is causing damage to a legacy, is causing damage even to the prospects of the Democratic Alliance.
Elvis, the EFF came out yesterday and they were scathing about their partnerships with the DA and the way that the DA have conducted their business, calling them arrogant and calling Helen Zille stubborn. How do you view that and how do you think that will play out in the South African political playing field?
Remember, different political parties and organizations generally have got the right to can comment about what is happening in the Democratic Alliance, but they must respect the DA's right to can attend to that disciplinary issue in the way their policy and constitution allow them. And the same apply to, disciplinary matters pertaining to the ANC or EFF. I will expect other organizations to respect that, because for now, let's allow the DA leadership, in particular the disciplinary committee, to go through the whole situation. I believe at the end of the day, the DA will come to the nation and say, this is the necessary decision that we have taken in as far as Helen Zille's situation is concerned. Up to now, I'm not sure whether they will suspend her membership permanently or they will expel her or they will fine her. I don't know, but I expect a swift action on the part of Democratic Alliance.
Thank you for being with us today. Coming to you live from Polokwane, that is political analyst Elvis Masocha joining us today, talking, of course, about, the disciplinary hearing of Helen Zille that gets underway today. It will last more than a month, we are told. You guys have been tweeting us on the question, what is your expectations of this? DK says to us, Newsroom, it's obvious she'll get a fine like any other people that's pushing racism. Derek Howell says, why do they have to grill Zille today in the midst of the Knysna crisis? Why not put politics on the back burner till after the crisis? Derek, you support a good team there, but life goes on, they say. Errol Vollenhoven says, Newsroom, the Zille sentence will not be the result of justice, but of political convenience. That's an interesting view there. Time now for us to take a little break. You've been watching the Newsroom show. We've been bringing you all the top news items from all around the world. After a short break, Kendall Mahamate is going to bring us cricket. Of course, India was stunned yesterday, and now South Africa have it all to do for beating India on Sunday at the Champions Trophy. Of course, Bafana playing against Nigeria. And the Boks, well, they run on against France tomorrow. Should be a cracking sporting weekend. Kendall will bring you all of that after a short little break.
A top 5 rated horse racing event in the world, fashion is a highlight for those in attendance. All decked out in blue and white, the Lomorians Queen Plate is the premier event that kicked off everyone's social calendar.
That it was all part of my master plan to cast John Legend but deprive him of his normal instrument and give that one to Ryan.
The House of Truth is not just a name. It is a religion. It is a lifestyle. It is a conviction that drives us.
What really excites me is how people have kept it very simple and also played with the theme, and how each person has interpreted it in their own way.
To stay updated with all the current entertainment news, tune into Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
Good morning, welcome back. My name is Kendall Makhamat. You're watching Newsroom. Now, we're going to be talking quite a lot about the cricket this morning, and we've got with us SABC cricket commentator Cass Naidu, who'll be doing exactly that. But before we get into that particular discussion, I'm going to bring you some of the news of what happened last night when Sri Lanka beat India in their unthinkable, throwing the apple cart over and throwing Group B wide open. Let's see what happened yesterday.
Will fly away to the boundary.
Rohit Sharma and Shikhar Dhawan put on 138 runs for the first wicket.
before Sharma was dismissed for a well-played 78. Virat Kohli was the next to go, failing to bother the scorers. The Sri Lanka bowling attack had its tail up after an indifferent start and soon picked up the prized wicket of Yuvraj Singh.
Chop it away behind square, and all he has managed to do is chop it onto his stumps.
That was the end of their success for a while. MS Dhoni and Dhawan upped the scoring rate, putting on an 82-run partnership at better than a run a ball. Dhawan finally fell on 125 to the bowling of Lasith Malinga, while Dhoni made 63. Malinga finished with the figures of 2 for 70. Sri Lanka will have to bat out of their skins for any hopes of progressing to the knockout stages. Nigelo Madala, SABC News.
All right, now I promise you that SABC cricket commentator and multiple award-winning journalist Cass Naidu is joining us to talk a little bit about the cricket. She's right here with me. Cass, thanks so much for coming in person to chat to us on Newsroom.
It's a real pleasure to be here.
Cass, Sri Lanka beat India. What happened?
You know, if it was South Africa, we'd say India choked, really, because at 322, Sri Lanka shouldn't have chased it down. It was the highest ever total chase down in the Champions Trophy. But Angelo Matthews has so much to prove. Yes. That he led from the front. And when those 4s and 6s were raining down and you saw the pressure on Kohli's face, you finally realize what a world event does. Rankings are out the way. This is the real pressure test. And can you pitch up?
No, very interesting that you put it that way, that you say, like, had this been South Africa, the choking tag would have been applied immediately. But that really is what happened. Virat Kohli and his cohorts could not keep up the pressure to keep Sri Lanka from getting there.
Sri Lanka needed to win. And you know, when you know you're back to the wall, you've got to do it. That's the situation South Africa find themselves now on Sunday. And can someone do what Matthews did in that, I'm going to take hold of this chase. I'm going to make sure at the end that we do get across the line. The fans are already struggling. They're struggling. There's a big lump in the throat. Are we going to go down the same route as India? But now suddenly Sunday, it's South Africa versus India in a knockout match before the semi-finals, a virtual quarter-final, and India know this situation so well. They know how to play it. Yes. South Africa don't.
Very interesting that you put it that way. I mean, what is your analysis so far of the Proteas? Because they beat Sri Lanka, went up against Pakistan, and it's been actually quite mixed. Some people say, yes, they choked already. Yet other people are saying that Pakistan took care of South Africa's mistakes and got themselves a win. What is your analysis so far?
It was a good toss to win, and I thought that with the rain around, South Africa would have opted to have batted second. More importantly, the wicket was covered for 2 days. They hadn't had practice in 2 days. It was the used wicket. I thought they had an opportunity to have a courageous selection policy and go for a second spinner. I'm disappointed I haven't seen Andile Plettenberg. He bowls cutters. He's able to really mix it up. Wayne Parnell has travelled. I get a sense on Sunday, the selection's going to change quite a bit. Morkel's likely to take the new ball. I see Plettenberg coming in, and I wouldn't be surprised if Quinton de Kock decides to finally pitch up with a big knock. Without that opening partnership, have you noticed how it's held South Africa back by a good 30 to 40 runs? So Hashim Amla's been goodish, but we need a good, strong opening partnership, a good platform, and you need the rest of them to come through. What's happened to AB de Villiers? That's the big question, though, hey?
That is the big question, because there have been a lot of questions around AB de Villiers, both as leader as well as best batsman in the world. What would you say? I mean, we've been running on this show for some time now. The question between Faf du Plessis as captain and AB de Villiers as captain, trying to see what the difference is in the performances of the team. And there have been marked differences.
Faf has grunt, doesn't he? He's got proper grunt. AB is a nice guy. He really is. He's a really nice guy, well-mannered, and I'm just wondering whether he's a little bit too nice. As some say, give the captaincy back to Faf, let AB focus on his batting. Not in the middle of a world event. That's like handing over the ascendancy to the other team that you're about to play. We've dropped our captain, guys, by the way. We don't trust him, and we've given it to Faf. I think it would cause huge upheaval. So my sense is AB will keep captaincy, but they've got to go courageously. And Kendall, they're number one. They love being number one. They should start acting like it, though.
Oh, nice one. Very well put. I mean, it's also got Russell Domingo, whose job really is on the line. Yes, he is. He's sort of like, he'll see what happens, but I'm sure he wants to stay at the helm of our South African cricket.
Imagine if he wins the Champions Trophy and he says, well, sorry, I'm on my way. I got a better opportunity overseas. But he's under pressure. Cricket South Africa is under pressure because this is one of the most supported national teams in South Africa. Without a World Cup trophy, I mean, even Alistair Coetzee team can say, well, listen, we're former World Cup winners. The Proteas can't say that. So wonderful in bilateral series, 5-0 series whitewashes. There are 3 matches they've got to win on the trot. And Sunday is a great opportunity to knock India out of the Champions Trophy. It will do real serious damage to world ratings and TV ratings. We're okay with that, the thing as South Africans. I have a feeling that if they win this knockout match on Sunday, there's an opportunity for them to seriously go through and win this tournament. But come home on Sunday and they will be called chokers again and they would have to own the tag. I don't agree with the chokers tag because I believe that it's tough love, and who are we to give them tough love? I believe real support is needed. Again, though, the Proteas need a pitcher.
I think one thing that you said to me off air before we came in here was the chokers tag really needs to be applied when the team has put itself in a winning position and then goes on to lose that particular match.
They literally were outplayed by Pakistan, so it wasn't a choking situation. Unfortunately, every time they lose, it's that choking feeling as a fan. Another tournament, another wasted opportunity. But my message to the fans is quite simple. Support the team all the way, because when they eventually do crack open and we go around the country celebrating, I hope you're going to be part of the crowds on the streets welcoming them back home.
You know what, you mentioned a little earlier Alistair Coetzee and his charges.
Yes.
They're up against France over the weekend. In fact, all 3 national teams will be in action.
Talk about a pressure test for South African sports.
There we go. And we've actually been asking a pressure test for South African sports. Yes, Knysna, you said it first. We've been asking our viewers what they think and what they hope to have with Bafana playing Nigeria, with the Proteas playing India, with the Bokke playing France. And it's actually been a mixed bag of comments that we've been getting. The chokers tag has been thrown in about the Proteas. Nothing around that with Alistair Coetzee and the Bokke. But also somebody said that Bafana, they always start well with a new coach and then start petering out towards the end. What do you think is going to be happening this weekend? What kind of Monday do you think South Africans will be having?
A memorable Monday. I'm going for a hat-trick of wins. I'm going to see Bafana beat Nigeria for the first time in Nigeria. Imagine that would be amazing. I'd like to see the Boks beat France. It's about time we get some joy there. And I'm backing Quinton de Kock to score a century and to take South Africa to a convincing win over India on Sunday. Hey, I'm positive. Allow me.
Cass, we like having you over. We really like having you over. It's really good to get thoughts from a seasoned analyst, seasoned commentator, also weighing in a little bit on the Bokke and Bafana as well. But yeah, definitely hoping that the Proteas pull it off on Sunday. And like you said, really it's an opening partnership that needs to lay that foundation.
Absolutely. So go Proteas.
There we go. Knysna, SABC commentator and multiple award-winning journalists talking to us about what to expect over the weekend. And hopefully we get a hat-trick of wins to celebrate come Monday morning. That's where we leave it with the sport. Up next, we have a look at the weather forecast.
That is true indeed. Let's see what's happening with your latest weather details. Well, we're still seeing those clear skies over the interior, except for the eastern parts where we're seeing a bit of partly cloudy conditions. We did have some fog patches in the morning, but they are clearing right now. Over Zimbabwe, so we're expecting some isolated showers spreading towards the coastal areas of Mozambique. While most of the central interior, we've got clear skies from Zambia, Malawi, Angola into southern parts of the DRC, except for the northern parts where we're seeing some isolated showers today and going into tomorrow, and some cloud spreading south towards the southern parts of the DRC into Rwanda and northern parts of Tanzania. Along the coastal areas of Mozambique, we're still having those showers bettering once again into the northern coastline, places like Beira and Inhambane, expecting also those isolated showers later on tomorrow. While back in Southern Africa, we're expecting yet again another cold front making its way towards Cape Town and bringing with it isolated to scattered showers, especially for the Western Cape Province and the Northern Cape Province, mainly the southern parts will receive those isolated showers for tomorrow. We do have a warning from the Weather Service for high field fire danger indexes, which means that those fires that we've been having in Knysna, now there's a possibility of having more fires over the central parts of Northern Cape, spreading towards parts of the Northwest Province, especially the western parts. This is for later on today. Your temperatures are looking like this. Clear skies, like I said, over the central parts of the interior. 23 is your high in Uppington. 18 in Bloemfontein, and cooler conditions over the eastern parts of the country. 17 for Pretoria, Mbombela, and the northern parts in Polokwane. Along the coastal areas, we're still seeing cool conditions in Cape Town with a high of 16, but today we are seeing just a bit of clear skies to warm things up. And to the northern parts, we're expecting still very cold conditions in places like Bulawayo 17, Francistown at 19. Places like Walvis Bay along the western coastline are still very hot summer conditions with those clear skies at a high of 31. While along the eastern coastline, we're seeing Nampula also with summer weather at a high of 31 degrees Celsius. Into the islands, we'll be seeing Madagascar having some isolated showers, especially along the coastal areas, and Tananarivo peaking at 22. Moroni is still warm at a high of 27. Now back towards the African continent. Remember, in the northern parts of the DRC, that's where we're seeing some isolated showers. Bangui spreading north towards Juba, southern parts of Sudan, while the southern parts of the DRC itself is still seeing these hot summer conditions at a high of 34 in Kinshasa. Angola, still a summer weather is expected with a high of 31. Lusaka, only 24 is your high. And moving further north, where we're seeing still those isolated showers in places over the southern parts, we're seeing the Central African Republic isolated showers. Most of Libya into Chad, Niger, clear skies, well into Egypt, where even tomorrow we're still seeing those clear skies, except for these just isolated showers over the central parts of the country. Places like Liberia and Cote d'Ivoire may expect scattered showers. That will be for tomorrow, later on in the afternoon. Temperatures for today, Saturday, we're expecting Agadez to peak at 42 degrees Celsius. Very hot in Khartoum with a high of 44. And Egypt, we're seeing still those very hot temperatures, especially along the coastal areas where we're seeing a high of 37 in Cairo. And last but not least, looking at your West Africa temperatures, still very hot over the central parts of Niger, 42 places like Niamey at 41. Along the coastal areas, we've got isolated showers in places. Abidjan peaking at 31 with those isolated showers. A cloudy day is expected for most of today into tomorrow in places along the western coastline. Dakar peaking at 28, expecting quite warm temperatures. And into the extreme northern parts, we're seeing Marrakesh peaking at 38, which was usually very warm. But right now, very hot for today and tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll leave your weather here for now. Be back with another weather update. We'll be updating you throughout the day. But I'll leave it here for now. Remember to stay tuned to SABC News.
If we can join our hands together against the ills of our society, we can build a better nation. One youth, one South Africa.
Many saying that the former minister is now endorsing Ramaphosa as the next president. Campaign time, Prof?
Yeah.
So early.
Let's at least accept that people have a right to expressing themselves in terms of who they support.
But what is lacking very seriously is that there is no that leadership role that is played by the leadership to say, we haven't opened succession and let us deal with those that are campaigning openly, because we haven't opened it as the leadership of the ANC.
What we need in this country is that we need a ruling party or leading party to be able to engage with issues that affect the people.
Our people campaign openly. It weakens the organization. In fact, it makes the policies of the ANC even more popular.
Stay tuned to Media Monitor and catch on analysts unpacking top stories every Sunday from 9 a.m. We are certain in giving an update on all leading stories.
You see South Africa has a yellow palette which indicates a warning color on this index.
We are first to give market updates.
And the more the currency is under pressure, also our costs go up.
We always give you the best guests to keep you informed and sharpen you for the day ahead.
You got to find something people are willing to pay for, that they need now, and they have the money to pay for it. The minute you tick those three boxes, you're in business.
Sports Roundup to fill you in.
985 is not the end. For me, it's going faster than the 985 and keep improving the record.
Never start your day without Morning Live if you need a perfect dress guide for the day.
Parts of KZN into Kokstad, we're seeing those fog patches. Please drive carefully.
Set the agenda for the day with Morning Live.
Do
Do you support the calls made by Blade Nzimande and Solly Mapaila?
It is not a call by Comrade Solly Mapaila and the Comrade Blade Nzimande. It is the position of the party.
Yes.
And the position of the party, we support it unambiguously.
Why?
The theory of the revolution, in simple terms, was that revolutionary forces are going to take charge of the state. And having taken charge of the state, they are going to transform the state to eventually transform society.
Join me in Port Sedu live every Monday to Thursday at 17:30.
Take your evening well informed with Primetime News.
Thanks for tuning in. You're watching SABC News Prime. The burning and land reform issue was also a point of discussion on the first day.
If you do not have a skills revolution, you will run into the kind of problems that we're having at the moment.
We have funded about 466,000 students, out of about 800,000 students that are in the university system.
South Africa says insufficient electricity and water remains one of the biggest barriers to development and prosperity on the continent.
The top 4 batsmen in the squad, Hashim Amla, Quinton de Kock, Faf du Plessis and AB de Villiers, are certainties in the starting lineup.
I really believe we cover all bases when it comes to spin bowling, seam bowling, proper pace bowling, and an amazing batting lineup.
Stay tuned every Monday to Sunday from 6 p.m.
Water-wise, water is an essential need. The scarcity of it could lead to loss of many lives, including livestock, plants, and much more. It requires us to use it sparingly and responsibly in times of need, failing which our taps and sanitation will not function. For more on water and weather issues, stay tuned to News Today, every Friday at 4:45 Central African Time. SABC News, making you water-wise.
Welcome back. It's Kendall and myself with you for the next hour. Final hour of the week for us. We look forward to it. We look forward to the weekend. Cracking sporting weekend.
Yes, can't wait to get into it. We've got so much to cover, so much to look at. Bafana, Proteas, Springbok. It's going to be great.
Yeah, of course, our focus today has been on the Democratic Alliance, this big disciplinary hearing that gets underway against Western Cape Premier Helen Zille. It kicks off today, and we've been asking you about your expectations of this DC, and people have varied views on it. It's interesting, isn't it?
Very interesting, and it's across the colour bar. It's not just one race and another race, but very interesting views across the way. Lechasa comes in with, let's not look at the colour of the skin. Let's judge no one. Let Helen give a chance, be given a chance, and be forgiven. Hashtag apology.
Fighter more law. Is that what you are telling us today? Nazim Unati says this is not about Zille or Maimani. It's about the DA's dignity. Yeah, that was what Albus also kind of spoke about.
Absolutely, and Derek Howell says, what a load of hogwash. Zille made reference to colonialism. She doesn't want to take us back there. Nobody wants that.
Interesting. Sport a good team, Derek. Good man. Anyhow, those are the new tweets you guys are sending us with regards to the disciplinary hearing. We also, of course, been talking about bail and parole conditions, and do criminals have it too easy? Can they just come out and re-offend again? What are people saying, Kendall?
Well, 198 votes that have come in, 93% are saying yes, we need stricter laws around bail and parole conditions because of exactly that. 85% of offenders re-offend as soon as they are.
85%?
85% is the official figure.
Unbelievable. So nearly 9 out of 10 re-offend. Yeah. Which means we shouldn't be giving people parole in South Africa.
Clearly, the rehabilitation of prison doesn't work anymore. Some other system needs to be looked at, but it's a discussion for another day.
The lady from the WITS project got a bit upset with me a bit earlier when I mentioned to her that these people reoffend. Yes. And the numbers are even more staggering than I thought. Anyhow, Onuke is tweeting as he says, it's not about laws, rather how strong is the enforcement, and that's the key. I agree. Too many laws without enforcement is nonsense.
Too true, Onuke. Peter Mufokeng says we do need stricter laws. This will bring back more confidence in our justice system.
Yep, there is a confidence deficit for sure. Evelyn Lechote says, we do need strict rules for bail as people think that they can get away with hurting innocent people. Yes, there is a sense amongst the public that this is the case. We cannot put our head in the sand with regards to this. The levels of violent crime are not coming down in South Africa.
They're not coming down. Crime remains one of the top priorities in this beautiful country of ours.
And people believe that criminals have it rather easy here. Anyhow, our national teams are all in action this weekend. It's going to be a cracking weekend. My expectations are low, but my hopes are high. What are yours?
Well put. Well put. Perry Martin says this is going to be a great weekend, but my main focus will be on our cricket boys because it's do or die, but good luck.
Do or die. That's what it is, Barry. Do or die. Bootler Ntombela says, I hope the Proteas will turn the tables against India because they owe us a trophy as a nation. The nation needs a trophy, Bootler.
Yeah, we do. Peter Mufukeng says, I'm hoping that they will bring a smile back and make us proud.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. Let's hope we're all smiling big time on Monday. The nation needs a trophy. Social cohesion needs a trophy. We'll take any trophy.
No, it's due. But look, we've had a Springbok trophy. We've had two. Yeah. We've had an AFCON trophy from Bafana. Cricket owes us a trophy.
Yeah, they owe us. Altaf Kazi, if you're watching, better talk to the captain there. Anyhow, let's take a look at our headlines. The death toll from the Knysna fires have risen to 5 with the death of a firefighter in hospital. Western Cape Premier Helen Zille says she is confident that she will get a fair hearing at a disciplinary hearing. The DA's legal commission is now with Zille and a lawyer behind closed doors at Parliament in Cape Town. And Britain is heading for a hung parliament with more than half the results now in from its snap general election yesterday. Those are the top stories, developing stories, all of them. On this channel, you'll be able to watch those updates throughout the day. But let's go to Kendall to tell you what are the top sports stories right now, Kendall.
Now, even there's a lot happening. In fact, we've also got the Canada F1 that's happening. Alonso's threatening to resign if he doesn't win at some point in this season.
Yeah, I think he's gone already, to be honest.
Yeah, it's pretty much gone. He's going to Indy 500. We know what he did a couple of weeks ago, went and tried out Indy 500. Good morning to you. This is what we have for you in the sports today.
If you look at the first 15, all those players have really performed well in Super Rugby. They showed good form.
Springbok coach Alistair Coetzee finally goes with the Lions-dominated side to face off against the French at Loftus, with 7 of the 15 coming from the Gauteng Super Rugby franchise.
A real captain's knock. And that will do it. Famous win for Sri Lanka.
And at the ICC Champions Trophy, Sri Lanka pull off the unthinkable and beat the mighty India by 7 wickets with 8 balls to spare, throwing South Africa's Group B wide open.
That'll do it. So on her 20th birthday, Jelena Ostapenko gets an unbelievable birthday present.
Unseeded Jelena Ostapenko becomes the first Latvian to make it to a Grand Slam final, where she'll meet up with pre-tournament favorite Simona Halep. Do stay with Eben. He's got the news.
Yeah, thank you, Kendall. Very good morning to you once again. Now, for something that's happening as we speak. Of course, it's Youth Month, and the Department of Higher Education is hosting an AIDS conference in Durban at the International Convention Centre there. Let's go to the opening plenary session live, where the Deputy Minister of Health, Mduduzi Manana, is on the podium.
Colleges and out-of-school youth to share their experiences of working in the field of HIV and discuss their challenges and best practices. I am proud to be standing in front of you today to affirm that it is indeed the higher education and training sector that is putting into practice the vision of bringing our young people together to discuss very pertinent issues that affect them. Esteemed delegates, although we've come a long way as a country, but we must admit that South Africa still has deep social problems that we need to address openly and eventually overcome. I am constantly confronted with these in my line of work and often reminded of the intersectionality of the issues that our young people are facing. the most pressing challenge is probably the one of poverty. As you may be aware, a significant number of students come from impoverished families and communities. Many of our female students find themselves in financially unstable situations, having to balance their tuition fees for their education, while also trying to find funds to cover their accommodation and other living expenses. These students often take care of their families, as a large number of them come from vulnerable families, but also have to attend college and university. Many of them are first-time entrants to universities and colleges in their families, but as well, they become the first ones to obtain either a university or a college qualification. So there is immense pressure on them, pressures which lead to female students in particular to engage in sex work or relationships with older men in order to cover their study fees and living expenses. We often hear about the so-called blessers or sugar daddies in the news, and we see it happening in our communities. We see it happening at our campuses, where older men would come with their very expensive cars to prey on our young female students, of course, taking advantage of their socio-economic vulnerabilities. So it is happening, and it is something that we have to confront and deal with more decisively. The fact that we shy away from talking about these problems in our society because they make us feel so uncomfortable leaves our female students in relationships of dependence on men that often lead to young women feeling disempowered to negotiate condom use and take care of their own health. So because we don't talk about these things, our female students are not as empowered to actually challenge these older men or even persuade them to actually use a condom, because there's so much dominance. When a person has financial power over the other, he then tends to want to dominate. And as a result, female students become so vulnerable. So there is no room to negotiate for condom use. And that's when the problem starts. Colleagues, we have to acknowledge that the 2016 nationwide student protests on issues of gender-based violence in South Africa have really called for action and leadership. In October 2016, I directed heads to work on establishing a technical task team which will investigate ways of addressing issues of gender-based violence in the higher education and training sector, and also look at the possibility of developing a policy framework that aims to provide practical guidelines for all our universities and colleges on the prevention of gender-based violence at all higher learning institutions. Members of the technical task team are in attendance at this conference, and they will be able to share some insight on the work they are doing in this area of gender-based violence. Esteemed delegates, I would like us to acknowledge that there are also a number of other difficult and important social issues in our sector that we need to address jointly. Besides the issues I've mentioned, or the issues that we all know of transactional sex, gender-based violence, and financial struggles of our students, We need to look at the challenges of drug and alcohol abuse, stigma and discrimination against people living with HIV and members of the LGBTI community, as well as the lack of youth-friendly services in some of our healthcare centers and clinics, amongst many other things. These social drivers make our youth enormously vulnerable to HIV, TB, and sexually transmitted infections. And this is why we need to look at HIV as a social problem and a challenge that needs all of our commitment. The HATES program is built on the belief that it is our empowered and educated youth that will bring about change in this country, especially when it comes to lowering the rate of new HIV infections. It is for this reason that we thought we should organize this conference as an opportunity to bring together various government departments, academics, young people from all walks of life to build on our experiences and lessons, and thereby find new ways to deal with issues of HIV and social drivers of the pandemic. Of course, what makes this conference unique is that it does not only focus on biomedical research and new innovations in the field of HIV testing, treatment, and care, but has a specific focus on the social and structural drivers of the pandemic. Our national and international presenters and workshop facilitators will look at emerging good practices in the fields of peer education and community engagement programs, as well as academic initiatives and curricula, ethics, and protection of human rights. This conference is expected specifically to look at issues of stigma and discrimination of marginalized groups and the LGBTI community, and the use of modern technologies and interactive methodologies such as theater, radio drama, and social media to address challenges of human rights and social justice. The next 2.5 days should be a learning curve for all of us. It is our academics and political leaders that should first and foremost listen to our youth. But our young people should equally give opportunity to listen to those who are policymakers as they outline some of their experiences and lessons learned over the years. As we gather here today, we want to listen to our young people. Our young people must be very critical, they must engage their leaders, they must tell their leaders what it is that they think should be done in order to resolve the many challenges that confront us. I wish to remind all of you that the next 2.5 days really present an opportunity for you to raise your voices. To raise your voices about the social challenges and injustices that you face every day. To discuss your dreams, your visions, and ideas. And as I said earlier, to critically engage your leaders. We are grateful that our country's Deputy President, who's also the chairperson of the South African National AIDS Council, Mr. Ramaphosa, will be joining us tomorrow. And he has committed to an open conversation with our youth. He wants to listen to you. He wants to be engaged. He wants to hear what the young people think about their future. So the slogan that says, "Nothing about us without us," is finding more resonance in this case. Esteemed delegates, let me acknowledge the Higher Education and Training HIV/AIDS program, HATES, and its leadership for really organizing this conference. As we know, this program, the HATES program, was designed to eradicate the impact of HIV, STIs, TB, and also aiming to strengthen general health and wellness issues in the higher education and training sector. As part of an increasingly comprehensive HIV, TB, STIs, and other healthcare and support mitigation programs in the post-school education and training sector, HAIDS currently implements various comprehensive health, wellness, and prevention projects and programs in partnership, of course, with a range of strategic public and private role players. We're incredibly proud of the success of this unique program, for it has shown that dedication and leadership can lead to concrete results. In 2016 alone, the HAIDS First Things First HIV counseling, testing, and general health and wellness program offered more than 165,000 students the opportunity to participate in testing and screening for HIV, TB, sexually transmitted infections, and general health and wellness. Further to this, over 1,500 academics and university and TVET college staff underwent training in the curriculum program, whilst over 192 campus and community radio station journalists have participated in the unique HAIDS Future Beats radio and social media program, reaching more than 720,000 young people in 6 provinces of South Africa with regular HIV prevention programs. It is now 16 years since the HAIDS program was established in the higher education sector. As South Africa's nationally coordinated, comprehensive, and large-scale effort designed to develop and strengthen the capacity, the systems, and the structures of all our public universities. And for the past 2 years, our public colleges have become part of this program. Being a leading HIV prevention program in the country, I believe HAIDS is perfectly equipped to lead this first National Youth Conference, and we congratulate you for this. On behalf of our ministry, the Ministry of Higher Education and Training, I wish all of you a fruitful conference. You must have robust discussions, honest discussions, which will guide us on how we can go about addressing some of these presenting challenges. Coming out of this conference must be some new, innovative, and inspiring ideas. Young people have gathered, so you should not wander about on the beach and do all of those things. There will be time for that, I'm sure, Dr. Lwale, so that our young people can really stretch, go to the beach, but at least a bulk of the work must happen here. Discussing, trying to find lasting solutions to the many challenges that I've outlined. So it is interesting that indeed we have all come here in numbers, and we thank you because you could have otherwise attended many other things, but you came here. Yes, I've seen it. But you have come here.
Well, that's such interesting subject matter, but we have to cut away from it because the Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, is visiting the expanded public works programs at Whittlesea in the Eastern Cape today. Now, Mr. Ramaphosa will assess their impact in alleviating poverty and unemployment there. The programs provide training and short to medium-term work opportunities for unskilled, poor and unemployed citizens. Let's cross there to our reporter, Busisiwe Jamsana, who is with the Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa.
A very good day indeed. We are with the Deputy President indeed, who is here in his capacity as the chairperson of the Public Employment Programs of the Interministerial Committee. He is here in the Eastern Cape in Whittlesea, where he's visiting various EPW projects. Right here where we are is the police station of Whittlesea. He has just visited a women's support center right behind us to hear about the challenges that the center faces, the progress that have been made, where it started. He is also expected to visit a township, Dongwe Township here in Whittlesea, to check the effectiveness of the EPW programs. We know that there are an immediate short-term employment opportunities by the Public Works Department to cater for those that are unemployed, especially in the rural Eastern Cape Town. Deputy President, the EPW programs have indeed created employment for large amounts of people here in the Eastern Cape, but just how effective are they in alleviating poverty?
Well, the EPWP programs people participating in these programs, and through these programs they are able to gain a lot of experience. They are also economically engaged on an ongoing process in a variety of disciplines, and one of them is in the social sector where we are visiting now. Some of them is in infrastructure, road maintenance, in a variety of areas, environmental affairs. So in the Eastern Cape, in fact, the Eastern Cape is the leading province in as far as the effective implementation of the EPWP programs, because they have done something that's wonderful. Programs. Do they have an impact on alleviating poverty? Yes, they do, because those people who are involved are able to earn a stipend. These are work opportunities. They are not really full-time jobs, but there is continuity, particularly in the road maintenance ones, because they carry on for a much longer period. We've got more than 51,000 people who are involved, most of them women, who've been involved in these road maintenance programs for a very long time. Like each woman, each household is given half a kilometer to maintain, and they do a fantastic job in the infrastructure area. But the most impressive at a social level is the one that we've just visited now, the Nomakabiso Center. It's a shelter really, and it's also a counseling shelter for women who are abused and for children who are also abused in the form of domestic violence and rape, other forms of violence. So this is attached to the police station. It is supported by social development, and we are here to listen to the needs that they have. They have a need for transport because they have to cater for 31 villages, and they have to cater for a very broad area. And today we are going to respond very positively to the need they have for transport by offering them it's just one room, one little room where you are not even able to have confidential discussions. So we're going to be providing a building where they can have very good counseling processes. They also need a shelter where on an overnight basis those women and children who are abused, who run away from, who are pushed out of homes and who are beaten up can come and have shelter. So we will also be responding positively to that. Now, this is the human face of our public employment engagement with our people. And this has proven to be most effective in a number of areas. And this is where government demonstrates and proves that it engages positively with our people, and it engages where they most need help. Government is there to soothe, to support, and to make sure that the pain that our people go through is assuaged to a very large extent.
And speaking of the effectiveness of the EPWP programs, Deputy developed them even further.
Well, they are community workers, and our community workers are playing a very, very good and critical role in community development and ensuring that we have social cohesion in our nation, and they play a key role in nation building as well. Our hope, our objective is that, yes, community workers should be drawn into the permanent type of people who will be able to continue playing this important role. Workers who are able to visit homes, households on a continuous basis, and they will be playing a key role, and they do play a key role in the primary healthcare process that we get involved in. So necessary in delivering a better life for our people is something that the government of the Republic of South Africa wants to continue supporting, because through this we are supporting the lives of our people and making our people better. So with quite a number of things, but community development is very critical, and the creation of jobs as well.
And quite interesting initiatives, in fact progressive, one may say, initiatives, but they'll have little to play if things remain as they are in the two junk statuses, Deputy President, and now technical recession. You as a business leader, as a politician, you are at the center of turning things around. What needs to be done? What will be done now moving forward, now that the country finds itself in this situation?
Well, yes, we've been lumped with two recession. The good thing is that government is focusing on how we can get out of this very unfortunate situation that we are in. Key role players in the economy, business sector, labor, and a number of other.
Well, unfortunately, it just got too bad towards the end there. But we could hear the gist of the interview. I trust that you enjoyed that interview. Yes, it is about building communities. That's what the Deputy President was speaking about there, of course, coming live to you via that link from the Eastern Cape. And as you could see, it was a bandwidth issue. We all know that we have those kind of bandwidth problems here in South Africa at times. But we've got a story that's just come in hot off the press, as it were. Nigerian pastor Timothy Omotoso, he's been denied bail by the Port Elizabeth Magistrates Court. That story has just broken. Magistrate Tandeka Mashila says the leader of the Jesus Dominion International Church is definitely a flight risk, has no extraordinary circumstances, and that he might intimidate witnesses. Now, Omotoso faces charges of human trafficking and other sexual offences. He's been in custody since his dramatic arrest at the Port Elizabeth Airport in April. Investigations are continuing. Now, this is almost a coincidence, because today we've been talking about exactly this on the show. We're focusing on bail and parole conditions here in South Africa. Do we need stricter laws around bail and parole conditions, is what we've been asking you. Just over 200 votes in. And, well, the vast majority are saying, yes, we do need stricter laws around bail and parole conditions. The numbers are shocking. 85% of parolees are likely to offend again in South Africa. You guys have also been tweeting us here with regard to it. Alex Matapo says, not everyone should get bail and parole. These perpetrators, they commit crimes hoping to get bail. The Big M, Michael Sitoli, is with us. He says, yes, we do, but that won't stop our ex-convicts from finishing off their unfinished business once out. That is the fear. The Khasa says, yes, our justice system is a joke. Finish and Clark. Ish. Tough view. Those are some of your views, of course. Timothy Omotoso, he's been denied bail in the Port Elizabeth Magistrates Court this morning. That's just a story that's developing right now. Of course, the big story still in South Africa, fires, and we can confirm that fires have been brought under control for now along the Garden Route. This is from Knysna eastwards towards the Nelson Mandela Bay. The fires did major damage at Knysna, causing it to be declared a disaster zone. There are reports that A firefighter has died in hospital. We can confirm this, bringing the death toll from these fires now to 5. Firefighters, assisted by 3 helicopters, worked overnight to damp down the area and monitor other hotspots.
3 Army helicopters arriving in Knysna at last light. Together with a helicopter from Working on Fire, they will target the hotspots. The aim is to put the fire out. It was still burning in pockets into the night.
It's very important with the aerial resources. We have our helicopter, but flying at a little bit higher altitudes is our spotter planes, and our spotter planes provide an essential guide to both our ground crews as well as our helicopters and water bombers in terms of where to do the water drops. So it's a coordinated effort.
The flames ravaged more than 50 houses in the Knysna region. The fire also spread to Plettenberg Bay, where at least 8 houses were razed. 5 people lost their lives.
There's no doubt that a disaster of this scale requires national government support. It has to be seen to be believed. It is a very serious matter. And of course, one of the things I'm most worried about is the people who lose their jobs through this kind of disaster.
The focus is also on providing humanitarian aid. Hundreds of people spent a second night in various halls. Hot food and shelter provided.
We thought we weren't going to make it. It was terrible. I have never experienced anything like it.
I was scared because my child has a chest problem and the smoke had entered our home. And it was not pleasant to experience it because we had to wake up at midnight to find shelter in a hall where others sought refuge.
Donations for the victims are also pouring in. Numerous donation campaigns are underway. Yuri Blichnout, SABC News, Knysna.
Yeah, it's escalating humanitarian disaster. We can tell you that, well, the wind forecast for later in the day is not good. It looks like the winds will once again be picking up there this afternoon, which means that the fire risk will increase exponentially. A little bit earlier, we spoke to Trevor Abrahams. He's the Managing Director of Working on Fire.
There was multiple fires under very, very strong wind conditions which actually stopped us actually using our aerial resources. So the fire spread at a terrible rate, very, very fast. People weren't able to be warned adequately, and that's why you had the kind of devastation and people being trapped, and even, unfortunately, the fatalities that we had. And ultimately, we had to actually have the evacuation of the entire Knysna community.
Now, you talk about the slow start to the firefighting, the aerial effort. Just explain to us a little bit more detail what made it so difficult and why did it start a little bit late?
Well, as you saw, the storm that came through the Southern Cape in Western Cape area was a major storm, the largest in 30 years. And the wind speeds there were of a nature that actually made flying impossible. So as much as we had resources on the ground right at George, we could not actually launch. In fact, right now, as we speak now, the wind has dropped, but we have smog conditions, so we're only able to attack certain of the areas.
Yeah.
And the wind will be picking up about 11 o'clock today, and then we have a new prefrontal storm coming in, where the danger is going to escalate again through this afternoon and into tomorrow.
Is this with high winds coming once again?
It will again be with winds, but the prefrontal conditions are known to be, endemic with spread of fire.
Now, Trevor, 20-something fires, we don't know the exact number. There are a lot of conspiracy around this, people saying this was not an act of God, this was, an act of man, and that they suspect that these fires were started.
Yeah. Look, all fires have to be investigated properly, but all indications are, with this prefrontal storm that we had last week, had a lot of lightning. So a lot of the sort of ignitions are thought to have started through lightning ignitions. But with the wind, the fire spreads very, very rapidly. You don't need any number of ignitions, but just one that can spread the fire.
Yeah, it was perfect, a perfect storm, a perfect firestorm. Of course, much of the focus of the Garden Route wildfires has been on the town of Knysna, which was hardest hit, but the fire also spread very quickly to neighbouring Plettenberg Bay, where over 1,000 people had to be evacuated. A number of homes also destroyed in this area. The damage could have been much worse had light rain not started falling. However, this has been one of the worst disasters ever experience in the history of the province, and some would say in the country. A little bit earlier, we spoke to our reporter, Yuri Blichner. He's stationed in Plettenberg Bay.
A good day, low wind, but there's no rain in the forecast. But Plettenberg Bay woke up quite somber this morning as they have lost one of their own in the fires. Fireman Bradley Richards sadly lost his life after he was badly injured in the fire while fighting the fire in the Hawkerville area. His colleague Ian Barner is still in hospital in George, recovering. He was also quite badly injured in that same incident, and people here have expressed their condolences with regards to this, and it is quite sad for the guys here. Looking at Plettenberg Bay specifically, two main areas were hit here, the Kranshoek area and then also the Robberg area, where a number of houses were lost. People were then, as you noted, evacuated. Many of them spent the last 2 nights in halls across the town in Plettenberg Bay, but since yesterday people have been returning to the areas after these have been declared safe. Today the last people of Kranshoek will return to their area after they were hit by the firestorm.
Moving a little further afield now, the European Union's Brexit negotiator, Michael Barnier, says negotiation on Britain's exit from the EU should start only when London is prepared. He was speaking after Britain's elections ended with a hung parliament. UK Prime Minister Theresa May's Conservative Party are set to fall short of an outright majority. Now, May called the election 3 years earlier than required by law, convinced by opinion polls that placed her far ahead of opposition party leader Jeremy Corbyn. But after a faltering campaign marred by political U-turns and 2 terror attacks, May's Conservative Party were on course to fall short of an overall majority. That's a big story in the United Kingdom. That's where I'm going to say goodbye to you. When we come back, that's the Newsroom show. Kendall will give you a complete sports update. It's going to be a cracking sporting weekend. I hope that South Africa's teams all come through and make us happy and make us proud. But I'll be doing so from the couch. See you on Monday.
If we can join our hands together against the ills of our society, we can build a better nation. One youth, one South Africa.
Through he goes, he's still going, he pops it up with Sergio Peterson. Easy as that, what a response it is from the Cheetahs, brilliant score.
Imran Tahir produced a superb performance with the ball. The Proteas leg spinner put his side in the driving seat, scalping 3 wickets for just 18 runs.
Gifton Gope is flying toward third, and he is there with a triple, his first in the big leagues.
It is a Ferrari front row lockout, unless Hamilton can get on pole, and he can't. Ferrari, for the first time since France in 2008, have locked out the front row.
For all your sports news, keep it locked to Sports Live every Saturday and Sunday from 20:30. If we can join our hands together against the ills of our society, we can build a better nation. One youth, one South Africa.
Welcome back. My name is Kendall Makamate. As you know, this entire weekend is going to be about national teams. Besides the French Open national tennis out there, Springbok coach Alistair Coetzee has named 4 uncapped players in the starting 15 for South Africa's first test against France at Loftus Versfeld on Saturday. The back three of Andries Coetzee, Raymond Roel and Courtney Skosan, as well as scrum half Ross Cronje, will make their debuts, while a 5th uncapped player, Dylan Lades, sits on the bench.
The intention of the new look Match 23 is clear. This is a new chapter in Springbok rugby that will hopefully put the nightmares from last season to bed. As was expected, the Lions, who was by far the best South African franchise in Super Rugby this season, have 7 players in the starting 15, with fly half Elton Yankees playing alongside his teammate Cronje. together with 8th man and captain Warren Whiteley and fullback Kutsia, are the backbone or decision makers of the team.
It's been very tough to select the team for the first test. If you look at the first 15, all those players have really performed well in Super Rugby. They showed good form. They really trained well for the past 2 weeks. And based on that, you know, it wasn't easy, but I had to start somewhere and make a selection, and that was the call. And some might feel unlucky not to be starting or not to be in the 23. But I'm so happy with the way it is really much narrower than before. These players are really pushing for positions, and it's a good position to be in.
The Boks have spent a lot of time over the past few weeks identifying their team culture, and fullback Andries Kutsia, who will realise a boyhood dream on Saturday, believes that the squad's advantage is their ability to function as a cohesive unit.
No, the vibe in the camp is great. Everybody's equal. I think that's the one thing that stood out for me coming to the squad and to the training camp. Obviously, going into the France, we don't really know what to expect, but we've really concentrated on our game plan, and everybody's on the same page. I think that's the important thing.
Definitely, really a good atmosphere. You know, a lot of excitement around the guys. You know, we're enjoying each other. We're getting to know each other as well. So hopefully we can go out there this weekend, you know, and put that all together on the field. Obviously, there's a few processes that we need to stick to, and you know, if we do that well and we get a collective effort from the 23, and it's better than what they're bringing, then hopefully we can get a result on the weekend.
South Africa won the last 2 test matches against the French in Pretoria in 1975 and in 1980, and these Boks will certainly be looking to make that 3 in a row. Kick-off at Fort Loftus will be just after 5 p.m. Samantha Mari, SABC News, Pretoria.
Now, South Africa's under-20s booked their place in the semi-finals of the Junior Rugby World Cup Championships yesterday with a polished performance against Argentina. They scored 11 tries and winning the match 70-14. The Junior Boks will play England in the semi-finals.
The first try came in 5 minutes, a well-worked team try that was awarded to hooker Johan Grobler. It was converted by Kerwin Bosch, the first of his 7 for the day, plus a penalty. He's already being talked about as a senior Springbok, perhaps in the not-too-distant future. Grobler scored another before Argentina scored one, and it seemed as if there would be a real match on. But the tries just before the break from Davian Willemse and Jor Penkler gave the Junior Boks the bonus point before half-time. After the break, the team confidence showed as they played open rugby, creating spaces and opportunities at will. That was evidenced in the try that was eventually awarded to Ambrose Papier, but it came all the way from their own try line.
Bosch flings it inside, and Papier streaks over for yet another score. South Africa raise their metaphorical bat as the half-century comes up on the scoreboard.
With half an hour still to go, Sean Roux gave all his subs a run, giving rest and game time to all the players, with victory already almost certain. That didn't stop the scoring, though. The final touchdown from Jean-Luc Cillier, converted by Bosch, was just the icing on the cake.
It was pretty nice match to play and stuff, but especially last year, we lost twice against Argentina, so nice to get one back on them. But yeah, that's the type of rugby we want to play, and it's a good step for us going forward into the semi-finals.
With 11 tries, the Junior Boks showed massive improvement on their first match, which they drew against France. The semi-finals will take place on Tuesday. Janet Witten, SABC News.
Now, Zimbabwe Football Association President and COSAFA head Philip Chiangwa says Zimbabwe plans on bidding for AFCON 2021. With the disappointment of having the AFCON 2000 hosting rights withdrawn because of ill preparedness and lack of government backing still strong, Chiangwa was sure to try and allay any fears on that front.
The indicate that we will probably bid in 2021 for competitions. This is not just the AFCON senior men's team. There is AFCON women. There is under 17s, under 23s. Those are the competitions which we have said, okay, with infrastructure upgrade, I think by such a time we will be in a position where we can bid for these competitions, and when the inspectors come to check
they will probably find that we are ready. That's the story, yeah.
Jamaica's sprint king and world record holder and champion in the 100 and 200 meter sprints, Usain Bolt, is preparing for his final race on home soil this weekend. The 30-year-old multiple Olympic gold medalist who announced that he will retire after the World Championships in London in August is set to run the 100 meters at Saturday's Races Grand Prix. To bid him farewell and maybe even spoil his party are our own Akani Simbine, Wait for Niekerk and other athletics royalty like David Rudisha and Mo Farah.
I think I'm a legend. I work hard. I've done anything I possibly can do to prove myself as one of the greatest athletes ever. So, yeah. I know the stadium is going to be full, so I know it's going to be high energy. I know it's going to be it's one big party, one big fun. It's going to be a bit emotional, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. What I'm going to do after I retire, there's so much ways which I can go. I definitely want to stay close to track and field as possible. I want to be as close to it as I can possibly be. I want to do a lot of charity work. I've always said I want to try football, but so that goes. So there's many things that I want to do, but we'll see what happens.
Now, Fernando Alonso sounded off a warning from McLaren Honda that they need to be winning by September if he's to stay with the team next year. Frustrated at frequent engine failure and lack of performance, along with regular grid penalties, the twice world champion made his feelings quite clear.
You know, I want to win, and I joined this project because I wanted to be world champion, and we are not in that position. So if you don't see things changing, you know, and if you are not in a competitive position, maybe you change project. So that's the only thing I can say now. But until I, you know, sit down with myself in September, October, or whatever, after the summer, as I always said, I have, you know, I cannot say 100% about anything now. I'm very open, and, you know, the best decision hopefully I will take on after summer.
And of course, all of this is before the Canadian Grand Prix, which is being raced this particular weekend. So we've got a chock-a-block for a weekend full of all the best sports happening, from soccer to rugby to cricket, as well as Formula One and some athletics to spice up the pot. That's where we leave it. Thanks very much for having been with us the entire week. You've been watching Newsroom. We will be back next week. Have yourselves a great weekend. Ni Jeng Monat, Lisa Lingson.
Do you support the calls made by Bladen Nzimande and Solly Mapaila?
It is not a call by Comrade Solly Mapaila and the Comrade Bladen Nzimande. It is the position of the party.
Yes.
And the position of the party, we support it unambiguously.
Why?
The theory of the revolution, in simple terms, was that revolutionary forces are going to take charge of the state. And having taken charge of the state, they are going to transform the state to eventually transform society.
Join me in Port Sedu live every Monday to Thursday at 17:30.
President Jacob Zuma says that the country's security agencies will seek new and more effective ways to fight crime.
Crime, as you would appreciate, depends on the circumstances. This narrative that South Africans are xenophobic, we don't necessarily agree with it.
This group of Bangladeshi shop owners ooze frustration. They've lost everything.
I'm like totally destroyed. I can't see what I'll do, where I'll go.
Rescue workers are still searching for the body of a 5-year-old boy who fell into an old mine shaft near Boksburg in Ekurhuleni.
Tensions remain high, with thousands of community members refusing to clear the scene until the boy is found.